Before his death, my husband said he would leave all his inheritance to his first love. Sway sway, she's different from you, you're just a nanny, but she's a dancer, she's lived elegantly her whole life, and only with money can she live out her remaining years comfortably. Besides, back then, if it weren't for you staging that car accident, we wouldn't have separated. You took advantage of my gratitude and wasted my entire life. If I could do it all over again, I'd rather be disabled than have any connection with you. He was full of grievances, yet never mentioned how I missed 2 college entrance exams to save him. Later, to help him recover, I gave up my aerospace dream and switched to nursing. I signed the asset waiver agreement and whispered softly, "Okay." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the college entrance exam. The moment he raced his car to win back his first love, I pretended to know nothing about it. In this lifetime, I don't want to have any involvement with him either. 1. Just as the college entrance exam ended, my dad grabbed me and quickly rushed back to the car. He started the car while my mom took charge of answering. "Did you know about Winshua's early romance? Today was the college entrance exam, but the girl broke up with him, Winshua. I didn't need to hear the rest to know exactly what happened, just like in my past life. Wenshua got into a car accident chasing after his girlfriend and lost his legs. The only difference was this time I watched helplessly as Wenshua went to his death, then went on to complete the afternoon exam. When we arrived at the hospital, 2 exhausted doctors had just emerged from the operating room. The car accident was too severe, and the rescue was delayed. We've saved his life, but he'll most likely never walk again. If post-op recovery goes poorly, amputation might be necessary." As these words were spoken, Auntie Sue, Winshua's mother, burst into tears. Uncle Wen steadied her, his own face filled with grief. My parents also stood there dumbfounded. It's a shame Winshua studied so hard for so many years, only for this to happen at such a critical moment. My dad shot a look to silence my mom. After Winshua was pushed out, all 4 parents immediately surrounded him. Only I stood frozen, staring blankly at my own hands, slender and delicate, without calluses or the swollen joints from prolonged exposure to cold water. I had truly been reborn, and the 2 exams I took this afternoon were also real. In their past life, Wenshua's first love Su Firan broke up with him on the day of the college entrance exam. In an attempt to win her back, Wenshua didn't hesitate to drive Uncle Wen's car to chase after her. I happened to see this and, worried about Wenshua's safety, followed behind, but ended up witnessing that horrific car accident with my own eyes. To get him to the hospital for treatment as soon as possible, I missed 2 afternoon exams. Despite usually scoring nearly 700 points, I only got a little over 400 in the college entrance exam. I had planned to retake the exam, but Wenshua suddenly knelt down and confessed his feelings. He said, "The doctor told me that if you hadn't risked pulling me out of the car, both my legs would likely have been amputated. You gave up 2 exams for me and missed the aerospace program. I'm willing to take responsibility for you for the rest of my life. If you don't mind me." Years of unrequited love suddenly came to fruition at this moment, and for a while I didn't even know how to react. What about Su Firan then? Wenshua's eyes were filled with nothing but hatred. If it weren't for her, how could I have ended up like this? I can't hate her enough. After a day of hesitation, coupled with changes in the college entrance exam policies and Wenshua repeatedly claiming he couldn't live without me, I finally agreed. Missing out on my favorite major, I enrolled in nursing to help Wenshua stand up again. For the next few decades, I dedicated myself to assisting Wenshua with his rehabilitation training. He said he disliked having outsiders at home, so tasks like laundry, cooking, massages, and rehabilitation were solely handled by me. I took care of him meticulously until he could stand on his own feet again. When he refused to accept failure and wanted to start a business, I was the one running around helping him. But when his career took off, on the day of his celebration banquet, I overheard him asking his assistant, "Did you manage to invite that dancer Su Firan to be my companion for today?" The assistant nodded but hesitated, saying, "President Wen, what about your wife?" Wenshua looked at his upright reflection in the mirror and let out a cold laugh. "My wife, she's just a housekeeper." I stood behind the door, humiliated, clutching the dress I was wearing. Perhaps heaven took pity, as Wenshua was once again admitted to the ICU due to complications. But before his death, he left all his inheritance to Su Firan. He even transferred the mere few $100,000 in my name to Su Firan. Sway sway, she's different from you, you're just a nanny, but she's a dancer. She's lived elegantly her whole life, and money is what she needs to live comfortably for the rest of her days, and back then, if it weren't for you staging that car accident, we wouldn't have separated. You exploited my gratitude and ruined my entire life. If I could do it over, I'd rather be disabled than have any connection with you. After toiling half my life, I became a penniless man only fit for menial labor. In my past life, I've already paid the price for being love-struck, too. This time, I silently watched Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue shed tears. Wen and I have only one son in this lifetime, Wen Shui. We've poured all our efforts into him. He's clearly an outstanding student with both moral integrity and academic excellence, so how could he start dating so young? I've already made inquiries. That girl is an art student with terrible grades. The college entrance exam means nothing to her. But she shouldn't be ruining Wen Shui at this critical moment. Sobs. My mother sighed beside me. This girl too, after Wen Shui went through such a big ordeal for her, she doesn't even come to visit. Aunt Sue's eyes filled with resentment as she abruptly stood up. We're not an unreasonable family, but that girl ruined my son. She should at least come to apologize. Aunt Sue got up to go find Su Firen, but before she could take 2 steps, Wen Shui's shouts came from the hospital room. Firen, Firen. I followed at the very end and walked in. Wen Shui had gauze wrapped around his head, both legs immobilized, struggling desperately to crawl but unable to get up no matter how hard he tried. Because I didn't follow, it said that Wen Shui remained unconscious in the car for over an hour before a teacher found him and called 120. The treatment came too late, and the injuries were more severe. The doctor said the chance of amputation is very high. Aunt Sue ran over, holding back her tears. Don't move, son, the doctor said you shouldn't move around, the wound hasn't healed yet. Wen Shui stared at his leg in slight surprise, then said with forced nonchalance, it's nothing, just a broken bone, not a big deal. See, I can still move it. Wen Shui tried to move his leg, but there was no response. His expression gradually froze, and with each attempt, his face revealed growing urgency. Why can't I move my legs? The anesthesia must still be wearing off, right? Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue had tears in their eyes, but didn't know how to begin speaking. Speak, say something. Wen Shui pressed the nurse call button himself, and when the nurse entered, he immediately began questioning her. What's wrong with my leg? Tell me, what's really wrong with my leg? The nurse was startled, and just as she was about to speak, Wen Shui suddenly pounded his leg violently again. Why can't I move at all? Wen Shui was so agitated that 2 or 3 people couldn't hold him down, but seeing him like this, I inexplicably felt a hint of satisfaction. I walked up to Wen Shui and said word by word, keep pounding your legs if you want. Right now they're just paralyzed, but if you keep it up, you might end up needing amputation. Wen Shui froze as if struck by the word paralyzed. Paralyzed. Aunt Sue finally couldn't hold back and broke down in tears. Uncle Wen also said, Dad already knows the whole story of this matter. Now that you've ended up like this, that Su Firen. Before he could finish speaking, Wen Shui suddenly said, it has nothing to do with Firen. I was in a hurry and drove without permission. I lowered my eyes and smiled. Even if your favoritism paralyzed me, should I still defend you in front of everyone? This car accident clearly had nothing to do with me, yet in my past life, Wen Shui could recklessly pin the blame on me. The difference between love and its absence is indeed obvious. In my past life, he said he'd rather be disabled than have any connection with me. He remained disabled for life. While I took the college entrance exams to pursue my dreams, everyone got what they wished for. 3. This time I didn't offer to stay overnight with Wen Shui again. After a while, I went home, but the next day, Aunt Sue fell ill due to extreme stress and anger. After all, Wen Shui was underage and caught driving without a license by the media, sparking a wave of online abuse directed at him. Uncle Wen couldn't handle the pressure alone, so my mom had no choice but to send me over right after I finished my college entrance exams. When Wen Shui saw it was me who came, his initial excitement quickly faded. I ignored him, just quietly sat nearby playing with my phone, thinking as long as he was unharmed that was enough. But just when the nurse came to change the dressing, Wen Shui was being very uncooperative. Bed 18, time for a dressing change. Wen Shui turned his head with reddened eyes. No need. The nurse was helpless but not the least bit surprised, looking as if this was a common occurrence. If you don't change the dressing, your leg will only get worse. The nurse proceeded to unwrap the bandages on Wen Shui's leg without waiting for consent. No need to change it. Wen Shui violently knocked the iodine solution off the nurse's tray, sending it crashing loudly to the floor. I frowned and stood up. In his previous life, Wen Shui couldn't accept his legs being like this either, but he wasn't as much of a jerk about it as he is now. Only after carefully recalling did I notice the difference. In the previous life after Wen Shui's accident, I went to Su Firan and pleaded with her extensively. She came to visit him the very next day, but this time, news of Wen Shui's car accident spread throughout the school, yet Su Firan showed no reaction at all. Wen Shui was throwing a tantrum, the nurse was extremely aggrieved, yet she had no choice but to complete her task. But before she could touch him, Wen Shui actually reached out and gave the nurse a shove on the shoulder. I already told you, are you deaf or just stupid? Is everyone in your profession this worthless? Can't you even understand what a patient is, unable to bear it any longer? I raised my hand and slapped Wen Shui across the face. If you don't want treatment, just check out. Why are you throwing a tantrum here? The nurse wiped her tears, took a deep breath, then went out to fetch the medicine again. Bed number 18. I grabbed the medicine and threw it onto Wen Shui's body. If you want to die, hurry up and go. If not, change it yourself. The nurse gave me a grateful look before leaving with visible relief. My heart silently aches for this young lady at the private hospital, having encountered such a beast like Wen Shui. Wen Shui panted heavily like a raging lion, glaring at me furiously. Xiao Sui Sui, how dare you hit me? Seeing the swelling on his face, I finally felt a bit of satisfaction. Before you go looking for trouble, think about your parents first. Your mother fell ill. Your father's hair turned white overnight. What reason do you have to act like this? Just because Su Firan didn't come to see you, then why don't you go bother her instead? Wen Shui fell silent after being called out. After a long while, he finally spoke with a nasal tone. Firan must have gone to training camp again and didn't know about this. That's why she didn't come. I mercilessly shattered his illusions. The college entrance exam is over. She even attended a class reunion yesterday. Wen Shui pressed his lips tightly and turned his head away again, clearly unwilling to admit it. By the time I returned from the bathroom, he had secretly changed his medication. In my past life, I always pitied Wen Shui for being sick and took care of everything for him personally. Later, I ended up spoiling him into a helpless adult who wouldn't even take his daily medicine unless I portioned it out for him. Now that no one's taking care of him, he still managed to change his medication on his own, didn't he? After returning home, I took a glance at Su Firan's social media feed. She's had quite an eventful few days. After much deliberation, I finally opened the chat window with Su Firan. I wanted to see how Su Firan would treat Wen Shui in this lifetime without my earnest persuasion. The next day, Su Firan and I arrived at the hospital one after another. When I arrived, Wen Shui's face was lifeless, but when Su Firan came, he finally seemed like a living person. His eyes sparkled. Firan, you finally come. How did you know I was hospitalized? You've gone through so much trouble in this heat. Xiao Sui Sui, quickly go buy Firan a cup of milk tea. Even though I no longer had any feelings for Wen Shui in this lifetime, I still couldn't help but laugh in frustration. In my past life, I gave up repeating the college entrance exam to study nursing, helping him recover from paralysis and stand again. Not only did he fail to appreciate my efforts, but he also treated me like a maid, claiming I orchestrated the accident to be with him. Truly, the beloved wins by merely existing. Without lifting a finger, I stood motionless as Su Firan crossed her arms and coldly declined. She kept her distance from Wen Shui. I didn't come here to drink milk tea. Wen Shui, what exactly do you mean? You had an accident because of your poor driving skills, and now you want to drag me into it and make me take responsibility for you? Are you kidding me? Your car accident happened after I broke up with you. We're already done, understand? It was the first time I saw that expression on Wen Shui's face, stunned, awkward, yet forcing a smile. He looked like he'd had a hard life. He stammered, Firan, no, I didn't mean to make you take responsibility. Su Firan coldly berated him in return. Did you think I wouldn't know you deliberately spread rumors about your car accident at school? You're just trying to emotionally blackmail me. The more you act like this, the more disgusted I feel. You're the one who insisted on clinging to me. Do you expect me to waste my whole life on you? Don't contact me again. I'm telling you for the last time, we're already broken up. Su Firan walked away with her head held high, while Wen Shui actually shed 2 tears. In his previous life, he didn't cry before death. This time, he didn't cry upon learning of his paralysis, but Su Firan's few words made him break down in tears. I curled my lips in a vengeful smirk. The college entrance exam application is coming up soon. I need to go back and choose my schools. Uncle Wen needs to take care of Aunt Sue. so please hire a temporary caregiver for now. I said a lot, but Wen Shui didn't listen to any of it. But it doesn't matter, I just need to carry out my parents' orders. I just heard that Wen Shui developed a high fever that same night and had to receive emergency treatment again. 5. I stopped going to the hospital and instead began studying aerospace knowledge. In my past life, Wen Shui called me a nanny because of my major. This time, I will fulfill my own dream. I signed up for a summer training camp related to aerospace studies and am preparing to depart in 3 days. But I never expected that the next day, while my mom was helping me pack my things, Aunt Sue's call suddenly came through. She was crying so hard on the other end she could barely catch her breath. Her words interspersed with the wailing sound of sirens. Quick, come to the hospital. The girl Wen Shui likes got a boyfriend, and he's so heartbroken he's trying to kill himself. Son, come down here right now. The parents exchanged glances, and Dad accidentally cut his hand while chopping vegetables. Suicide, let's go, hurry over there. On the way, the parents were extremely anxious. Such a good child ruined like this. Wen Shui used to be so wonderful. Qiao Sui Sui. You must never fall in love too early. No, you must never be love-struck, understand? My mom shot a glare at my dad. How could my daughter? I sat in the back without speaking, but my heart was bitter. Actually, I don't regret saving someone in my past life, but I suffered greatly from being love-struck. In my past life, my mistakes alone caused my parents to toil for half their lives. Mom and Dad, I swear I won't let that happen again. No matter who my partner is, it won't happen. More than sacrifice, in this life I want to stay true to myself. 6. The area near the hospital was completely jammed, so my mother had to take me out of the car and we ran there. Both 110 and 119 arrived, and thick padding was laid out below the hospital. The ward was on the 15th floor, where a person in a hospital gown was hanging by the window. It was Wen Shui. Actually, I didn't feel much emotion inside, but I still recorded the video and sent it to Su Firen. Whether Wen Shui truly wants to die or is just emotionally manipulating, that's between the two of them. It has nothing to do with me. I just don't want to see Wen Shui die so soon. After all, compared to death, living is the harder ordeal. When we rushed to the ward, Wen Shui was sitting entirely on the windowsill. With the window wide open, he could fall straight down with just a slight lean backward. My mother spoke her mind into my ear. This child's legs aren't. How did he even get up there? My dad nudged my mom's arm. What kind of time is this to be saying such things? Wen Shui, listen to Uncle Qiao and come down quickly. You're still young. There's no hurdle you can't overcome. Wen Shui's face was full of brokenness as he pointed at his own leg. Like this, what's the point of me living anymore? I sent another video to Su Firen, and said, if you don't want to carry a human life on your conscience for the rest of your days, come here quickly. Aunt Su anxiously slapped her thigh. Son, come down. Your life is just beginning. What does it matter if you lose your legs? Our family is well off. Your parents can support you. Come down quickly. Wen Shui broke down and demanded, How am I supposed to live? I'll never be able to stand up again in this lifetime. Qiao Sui Sui can still go to the university she loves. Everyone else still has endless possibilities. Only I have to spend my whole life in a wheelchair. Mom, Dad. I really don't want to live anymore. Let me go. You're still young, you can have another child, just make sure they don't end up like me. Wen Shui spoke as he leaned backward, but amidst everyone's exclamations, Su Firen arrived belatedly. Wen Shui, how dare you? Wen Shui froze. Su Firen supported herself on her knees, gasping for breath in great heaves. Don't jump, please don't jump, I know what you want, I promise. I'm willing to stay with you. A flicker of joy flashed in Wen Shui's eyes, but it was soon replaced by desolation. He shook his head. I know you've already. I don't want to hold you back. Su Firen tentatively took step after step forward. It was all because I didn't have the courage to face you before, yet couldn't forget you, so I found someone else. Wen Shui, I still want to be with you. The moment Wen Shui was rescued, Aunt Su collapsed to the ground, wailing uncontrollably. My mother patted her shoulder sympathetically. There, it's all right now. Is that so? But the anger and resentment in Su Firen's eyes clearly didn't look like nothing's wrong. 7. I went home to prepare for summer camp, while my parents still kept going to the hospital from time to time. They said with Su Firen around, Wen Shui finally started taking his treatment seriously. I've watched Wen Shui grow up since childhood, and I've never seen him so obedient before. Sigh. It would be best if those two could stay like this forever, but that girl doesn't seem like the type who can hold on. I said while packing food into my bag. Why do you care so much, Mom? You should be checking on me instead. I'm leaving tomorrow. Only then did my mom start helping me pack my things, but after a while, she hesitated and said, Sway, why does Mom feel like you and Wenshua have grown much more distant recently? Before, weren't you? I paused and said earnestly, Mom, please stop talking about childhood sweethearts anymore. Since Wenshua and Sufiran are already together, I should keep my distance even if our relationship was once very close. I made my stance clear, and my mom didn't ask any further questions. That very evening, Aunt Sue and Uncle Wen came to our house to complain. Seeing my suitcase and bag, Aunt Sue was momentarily stunned. Sway, are you going somewhere? I nodded. I plan to apply for the aerospace program, so I'm cramming some knowledge during summer break first. Aunt Sue nodded, tears welling up in her eyes before she could speak. When the crowd thinned, she suddenly grabbed my hand and said, Sway, go study the major you love. It's Wenshua who wronged you. You and Wenshua grew up together since childhood. Even Auntie can't bear to see you being held back by him. I froze for a moment, at a loss for how to respond. In my past life after marriage, Auntie Sue and Uncle Wen were actually always very good to me. Having a son like Wenshua who's been love-struck for 2 lifetimes, they've really had it rough. I couldn't bear to hurt Aunt Sue, so I tactfully said, Wenshua and Sufiran are deeply in love, and they will eventually have a happy ending, with someone taking good care of him. Perhaps Wenshua will gradually recover. Auntie, please set your mind at ease. After all, in my past life, it was through my care that Wenshua managed to stand up again. But Aunt Sue shook her head. Wenshua won't let us get close, and Sufiran is just a child who doesn't know how to care for others. Within just a few days, Wenshua developed bedsores. This was expected. In my past life, I would wipe Wenshua's body twice a day and massage his muscles once. Only I knew the exhaustion involved. It's perfectly normal that Sufiran couldn't manage it. The next day I went straight to summer camp. Everything related to space fascinates me. I was voraciously absorbing all kinds of knowledge. This time I must make up for last time's regret no matter what. Wenshua had been completely pushed out of my mind. It wasn't until 10 days later, when I was preparing to go home to check my grades, that I found out Sufiran had actually gotten engaged to Wenshua. Engagement is a happy occasion. Why do you all look so gloomy? My parents shook their heads one after another. Do you think an engagement is something decided so casually? My mother held up 3 fingers. It was your Uncle Wen who promised a dowry of 3 million, plus all of Sufiran's university expenses in exchange. I raised an eyebrow, but quickly came to terms with it. It's simply a case of the biter bit. 8. That evening, our family of 3 sat neatly in front of the computer, eagerly waiting to check the results at the exact moment they were released. The moment I saw the total score of 703, tears of excitement streamed down my face. Mom, I can study aerospace engineering. I can do it. I could have done it all along. My parents couldn't understand what I was saying, just nodding frantically along. In my past life, when I discovered Wenshua treated me like a maid while paying extravagantly for Sufiran to be his companion, I found an opportunity to bring this up with him. But Wenshua just looked me up and down, then dragged me in front of a mirror. Look at yourself, you're dry, split ends and hands swollen like radishes. What else could you be but a nanny? Besides, you studied nursing. Isn't that just being a glorified maid? If not a nanny, would you even consider wiping my waist in a hospital? I shouted emotionally. Didn't I study nursing to help you recover? Without me, would you have gotten better, Wenshua? How can you be so heartless? My body trembled with rage. If it weren't for saving you back then, the past 10 years were what Wenshua least wanted to mention. He slammed the table angrily and demanded, back then, how many more times must you bring it up? Even if you had taken the exam back then, could you have scored high? Could you have gotten into the aerospace program? Chiao Sway, I see you're quite the dreamer. That night, my heart was utterly shattered by Wenshua. But my 703-point score proved I could really do it. I always could. Early the next morning, I dragged my parents out to celebrate, but right then, they ran into Sufiran pushing Wenshua out in his wheelchair. Even while turning to lock the door, Wenshua couldn't tear his gaze away from Sufiran. With her around, Wenshua's mood noticeably improved. Uncle, Aunt, Sway, where are you all going? The parents were afraid that celebrating openly would hurt Wenshua's feelings, so they just made up a random excuse, going to her grandmother's place for dinner. What about you? Wenshua's emotions were written all over his face. Firen is taking me to the hospital for a follow-up check." As soon as the words fell, Su Firen took the initiative to ask me, "The college entrance exam results are out, how many points did Sui Sui score?" In my peripheral vision, Wen Shui also looked at me. With a faint smile on my lips, I calmly said, 703 points. In my peripheral vision, a trace of desolation actually flashed across Wen Shui's face. Su Firen's face showed no extra expression as she said, "I can also go to the school I like to study dance now. Classes start on September 5th. At this, Wen Shui completely lost his smile. Given his current situation, forget about going to university. He couldn't even be left alone without someone by his side, but Su Firen was different. Could someone who fits in seamlessly really stay by Wen Shui's side for a lifetime? 9. Before school started, my parents held a college celebration banquet for me, and Uncle Wen's family was naturally on the guest list. I was admitted to Beihang University. Both the school and the program were my top choices. On the day of the celebration banquet, Wen Shui sat silently in his wheelchair lost in thought, while I was surrounded by relatives and friends chatting and laughing. When the classmates clamored for a group photo at the end, everyone eagerly gathered together. Only Wen Shui remained motionless, gripping the wheelchair armrests tightly. "Wen Shui, come up here, aren't you two the closest? Sui Sui is leaving for university." "Exactly. Everyone knows you two grew up together since childhood. Come on up." Wen Shui pursed his lips and remained still. But two boys ran down and without a word moved him along with his wheelchair up to the platform. It's just that back then, he was the wealthy and handsome top student who was always the center of attention wherever he went. This time, no one gave him the central C-spot. Later, when I looked at the group photo, I realized Wen Shui had been placed at the very edge of the crowd. On the night before school started, Wen Shui actually came knocking on my door. After opening the door, I instinctively looked straight ahead, and only when I saw no one at eye level did I lower my gaze to see Wen Shui sitting in a wheelchair. He smiled self-deprecatingly. "I guess from now on, you'll only be looking down at me. Can we go out for a walk?" I wanted to refuse, but my mother whispered behind me, "Wen Shui has been cooped up at home for so long, and he's finally willing to go out. Please accompany him for a walk." A habit from my past life. Whenever I see a wheelchair, I feel the urge to push it. I forcibly withdrew my hand and walked ahead. The roads in the villa district were spacious, with Wen Shui sitting in a wheelchair walking alongside me. "Congratulations on getting into your favorite school," I politely yet distantly said. "Thank you." But then Wen Shui immediately took out his exam admission ticket. He smiled bitterly. "What a coincidence. The school you're going to is the one I wanted to attend. But I'll never have the chance now. Xiao Sui Sui, please take my exam admission ticket with you too. This is all I can do in this lifetime." He handed me his exam admission ticket, but I didn't take it. "Maybe someday Su Firen will take you to fulfill that dream." I absent-mindedly swatted at non-existent mosquitoes by my legs. "There are too many mosquitoes. Let's head back first." Wen Shui felt a momentary loneliness, but didn't say anything. As they walked, Wen Shui gradually fell behind. I frowned and turned to look, only then noticing his wheelchair was stuck on a rock. When our eyes met, his face was full of embarrassment, yet he stubbornly said, "Don't mind me, it's just a small rock. I've got this." "Okay." I nodded and went straight home. 10. Su Firen and I started school on the same day. At the high-speed rail station, we happened to run into Wen Shui and Su Firen saying goodbye. Wen Shui secretly slipped Su Firen a bank card. "Don't let yourself suffer at school." After receiving the money, Su Firen couldn't wait to enter the station, prompting Wen Shui to quickly add one last remark, "If you have time, remember to come back." To this, Su Firen gave no response. College life turned out to be far more fulfilling than I had imagined. Plus, it's a major I'm genuinely interested in, making my college life feel incredibly joyful. I think my past self must have been completely insane. To think I gave up so much just for a man. This time, I've experienced everything I never got to do in my previous life. After the semester ended, I specifically went abroad to skydive before returning home. Aunt Su came to my house again that night, anxiously asking, "Sui Sui, have all universities gone on break during this period? Firen still hasn't come back yet." I raised an eyebrow. "It's already been a month-long holiday. I even went abroad for a trip and came back." "Auntie, Su Firen and I don't go to the same school. Maybe there's some special situation on her side." Aunt Su nodded with a worried expression. "Auntie doesn't want to keep this child trapped either, but she was the one who initially proposed being willing to get engaged. Our family fulfilled all our promises, yet now she's nowhere to be found." that child Wen Shui is stubborn to a fault. He's lost over 20 pounds these past few months. Sigh, frowning. I reluctantly asked a classmate to inquire about Su Firen's school at Auntie Sue's pleading. The answer we got was that university had let out half a month earlier than ours. My mom was frantic. I have to tell Aunt Sue, if you don't want to get engaged, then don't. Wen Shui has been waiting at home day and night. What kind of situation is this? I stopped my mom. I'll never do a favor that ends up causing me trouble again. After another week or so, Su Firen finally came back. She was dressed head to toe in designer brands, looking every bit the socialite, according to my mom. Wen Shui finally started showing some smiles, but over the next month, Wen Shui grew increasingly haggard. Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue seemed to have aged 10 years in just 6 months. Uncle Wen, who had never bowed his back before, even came to my house to borrow money. My father didn't hesitate to take out a card. Old Wen, what on earth happened? How did it come to this? Our family and the Wen family were on equal footing. Even if something happened to Wen Shui, they would never be reduced to having no money. Uncle Wen let out a long sigh and only spoke after a long while. Su Firen said she wants to study abroad, but the cost is staggering. If we don't support her, she'll call off the engagement. Wen Shui's condition has been unstable. During a recent hospital checkup, it suddenly worsened. The doctor said they might have to amputate. Wen Shui's mother and I have truly reached our limits. Even after Uncle Wen left, my parents were still shaking their heads in disbelief. Is Wen Shui really that inseparable from Su Firen? The family fortune is almost drained. I asked curiously, is Uncle Wen's company not doing well? My parents sighed in unison. Wen Shui's unlicensed driving incident was exposed, and your Uncle Wen's company suffered greatly. They just paid a hefty penalty not long ago. I nodded. When I tossed and turned unable to sleep at night, I came across Su Firen's social media post. She had updated many photos and videos of herself dancing, but looking at her dance partner, I couldn't help feeling somewhat familiar. 11. Not long after, I coincidentally ran into Su Firen and a guy on the street. The two were even holding hands, appearing extremely intimate. Only when I saw him in person did I suddenly remember. This guy was actually from our high school. When Su Firen glanced in this direction, I instinctively hid and then secretly followed her. Firen, would the Wen family really be willing to give you 6 million? That's no small amount. You really dare to ask for the moon, don't you? Su Firen coquettishly retorted. You're one to talk. Doesn't that 6 million include your share? Don't you want to go abroad for further studies with me? As long as that cripple Wen Shui can't live without me, his family has no choice but to accept their fate. Luckily you made that bet with me back then, to see if Wen Shui would abandon his college entrance exams to chase after me if I broke up with him. That's what made him a cripple. All our current happiness is built upon Wen Shui's disability. The boy smiled, kissed Su Firen on the cheek, and even patted her but, I froze in shock. Su Firen actually did it on purpose. Wen Shui would resort to emotional blackmail to be with the one he loved, while Su Firen would gamble with someone's legs at stake. They are truly a match made in heaven. Wen Shui got what he deserved, but Aunt Sue and Uncle Wen were the real victims who got dragged into this. It wasn't until evening that the man brought Su Firen back. I glanced at the car. It was worth millions. So the Wen family's money was all spent on this man, spending money like flowing water. No wonder the Wen family went bankrupt. Su Firen froze when she saw me, a flash of guilt crossing her face. She wanted to return directly to the Wen family, but I blocked her path. What are you doing? I couldn't be bothered to waste words with her, so I got straight to the point and showed the photos I'd just taken. Wen Shui might be a fool, but Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue certainly aren't. If you insist on demanding an exorbitant amount of money, don't blame me for making everything you've gained go up in smoke. Su Firen froze for a moment, anger flashing across her face. Mind your own business. Wen Shui is just a cripple now. Why should I, a young girl in the prime of my life, waste my whole life on a cripple? Besides, it was him who forced me into this by threatening suicide. He brought this upon himself. But what about Wen Shui's parents? I hissed in a suppressed voice. Did Wen Shui's parents deserve to be drained dry by you too? They should have been enjoying their retirement peacefully like my parents, but now they're reduced to bowing and borrowing money from everyone because of your mess. I don't care how you treat Wen Shui, but you're not allowed to ruin Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue like this. After delivering my warning, I turned around and went straight home. 12. 2 days later, Aunt Sue finally showed a faint smile on her face. She returned the card she borrowed from our family. Wen Shui has been begging Firen these past 2 days. and she agreed not to go abroad for now. Thank you all, we probably won't need this money for the time being. My parents both breathed a sigh of relief. It seems Sue Fearon was genuinely afraid of losing the Wen family's cash cow. I didn't listen further. This was all the help I could offer them. With school starting soon, I'd been busy meeting up and dining with high school friends every day, but when I returned that evening, I saw Wenshua sitting motionless in his wheelchair outside. I was genuinely startled for a moment when I saw how gaunt he looked. He caught my subtle change of expression and gave a self-deprecating smile. Did I scare you? I really haven't had much appetite lately. Instead of answering, I glanced at the lit lights in their house. What are you sitting here for? Wenshua looked at me, his eyes gradually turning red. I frowned. If there's nothing else, I'll head back. Don't go. For some reason, Wenshua's voice actually choked up slightly as he spoke. My parents went to the company and won't be back tonight because of work. Sue Fearon brought his dance partner over to our house to hang out. I raised my eyebrows, somewhat surprised by how bold Sue Fearon was being, but on the surface, he calmly responded with a sound. So what are you trying to say? Wenshua's Adam's apple bobbed, and the words he spoke utterly shocked me. Sway sway. If I break off the engagement with Sue Fearon, can we be together? I've seen clearly now, Sue Fearon never had genuine feelings for me, only you and I share true sincerity. Suppressing a cold laugh, I asked, and then, Wenshua's eyes lit up, as if seeing hope, he said urgently, I believe my leg will definitely recover as long as it gets proper care. Sway sway, how about you go study nursing? Once my leg heals, I'll start a business and make sure you live more gloriously than now. With every word Wenshua spoke, my heart grew colder. By the end, I was almost certain that Wenshua had been reborn just like me. The originally tranquil night suddenly turned gloomy, and a bolt of lightning struck down. Wenshua's face looked frenzied under the lightning's glow. Sway sway, we'd definitely have a better life together than now. I know you like me, let's give it a try. Okay, I laughed. It's you who would drain my value. You're the one who'd live better than now, aren't you? You succeed in your startup, then say I'm just a nanny. Wenshua, why should I give up aerospace studies just to help you recover? Wenshua froze completely. You too. I took a step closer, enunciating each word deliberately. Wenshua, you've gotten your wish in this lifetime. A flash of devastation crossed Wenshua's face as he stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. I'm now a top-tier university aerospace student, destined to become an astronaut. But what about you? A disabled person like you. How could you ever match up to me? After saying this, I turned around and went home. The moment I closed the door, thunder cracked outside with a sharp clap. Ciao sway sway, I was wrong last time. Sway sway, my mom walked by with a glass of milk. Is someone calling you outside? No, it's thunder, you must have misheard. As soon as the words were spoken, rain began pouring down outside with a pitter-patter. Wenshua was drenched in the rain, straining to turn the wheels, but the wheelchair remained immobile. 13. Early the next morning, my parents were ready to take me to the high-speed rail station to return to school, but the car had only driven a few dozen meters when both police cars, 110, and ambulances, 120, entered our neighborhood. It's been such an eventful time lately. What's happened to which family now? When I saw the police car parked outside Wenshua's house, my dad slammed on the brakes. It's the Wen family. My right eye twitched as I suddenly remembered what Wenshua said last night. My parents went to the company. They have something to attend to and won't be back tonight. Sue Fearon brought his dance partner home to hang out. The police broke down the door, and paramedics carried out a white shrouded body on a stretcher. My mother's legs gave way, but fortunately I caught her. Who died, just as the words were spoken. Wenshua and another boy were carried out alive. The relief my parents had just felt vanished instantly. Who is this boy? Where are old Wen and his wife? Call them now. I was about to say that Uncle Wen and his wife weren't here, but as Wenshua was carried past me, he grabbed my sleeve, and only then did I see the blood covering his entire body. Let go. The medical staff tried with all their might but couldn't pry his hands open, so they had no choice but to look at me helplessly. He has multiple stab wounds. The bleeding won't stop, his organs might be punctured. We can't afford to waste any time now. Why don't you come along in the car? I gave Wenshua a cold look, refusing to be morally coerced, and directly took off my own sun-protected jacket. Wenshua was sent to the hospital, and my parents called to inform Uncle Wen's family. Meanwhile, my parents went to the police station to help understand the situation. The man was sobbing uncontrollably in the police station. I really didn't mean to kill anyone, I was just defending myself. That cripple was a lunatic. He didn't want to live anymore and tried to kill us in the middle of the night. If I hadn't been a light sleeper, I would have been killed for sure. This is so unfair. I swear I didn't intend to kill anyone." The policeman slammed the table angrily. "Then why would he try to kill you for no reason?" The man fell silent for a moment before spouting nonsense. In their past life, when Shua's first love Su Firan broke up with him on the day of the college entrance exam. "No," I scoffed, "you don't even know Wen Shua, so why would you spend the night at his place?" The police officer's gaze was sharp. "Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. If you want probation, you'd better come clean." Only after intense coercion and inducements did he finally reveal his relationship with Su Firan. "It was just last night when Wen Shua's parents weren't home. Su Firan wanted some excitement, so she brought me back. The two of us did it right in front of Wen Shua. But who knew that cripple would have such a fiery temper? Instead of sleeping at night, he actually crawled over trying to kill someone. Look, I'm injured too." My mother went mad with anger upon hearing this and immediately gave that person a thorough scolding. Meanwhile, Uncle Wen's call also came through. "Old Xiao, is Sui Sui at home?" The doctor said Wen Shua's resuscitation failed, and now he's lying here calling Sui Sui's name. "Could you let Sui Sui come see Wen Shua one last time?" "The boy, he refuses to let go." I frowned and shook my head at Dad. It was the first time he'd lied to Uncle Wen. "Sorry. Old Wen, Sui Sui has already taken the high-speed train back to school." "Sorry, Uncle Wen and Auntie Sue. I never want to see Wen Shua again." I returned to school very soon, and that evening when I arrived, my mom sent me a message. "Wen Shua is still holding on, still keeps muttering something about being sorry." Ah, what kind of fate is this for Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue? At 5 a.m. the next morning, my mom's message came through again. "Let's go." Pressing my lips together, I hesitated before replying. "Please comfort Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue properly. As for Wen Shua, may we never meet again in this life or the next." For years later, I graduated with my bachelor's degree and was admitted to a combined master's and doctoral program. No matter what, I fulfilled my lifelong dream in this lifetime. The end. Story 2. Since I found out that the servant's son liked me, I began to isolate and loathe him. Finally, I managed to find something against Zhong Yu and drove him out of the house. 7 years later, the Yu family went bankrupt. In a desperate situation, I had no choice but to beg this rising business tycoon, Zhong Yu, once again. Surprisingly, Zhong Yu didn't make things difficult for me. On the contrary, he actually helped the Yu family out. I stayed by his side and tried my best to gradually heal the previous rift between us. Until one day, an accident occurred. The car plunged off a cliff. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in high school, during the worst period of our relationship. At that moment, I was doing everything I could to drive Zhong Yu out of the house. "Look at him, he's a pervert, so shameless. How can such a person still stay in our house? Mom and Dad, kick him out now." When I opened my eyes again, my head spun. The shouts I had just made still echoed in my ears. No one said a word. The villa was filled with an eerie silence. My father and mother looked at each other, seemingly taken aback by the scene. A pile of letters was scattered on the floor. They were the love letters Zhong Yu had written to me in my previous life. I suddenly remembered that this was the time when I was about to graduate from senior high school 7 years ago. I had gone to great lengths and finally found something to use against Zhong Yu, and then I drove him out of the Yu family. Zhong Yu was the son of our family's servant. He was outstanding, intelligent, and good-looking, but for some reason, I disliked him very much. Perhaps it was because we lived together, and my classmates always liked to joke about us, asking if he was the child bridegroom arranged for me by my parents. What's more, he refused to clarify. Despite his cold personality, he was always much gentler and softer towards me than towards others. In my previous life, I distanced myself from him, mocked him. I even asked my mother several times to drive him out, but he never got angry. Gradually, he seemed to be truly sad. He talked to me less and less, until I found many diaries and love letters about me in his textbooks. Only then did I know that Zhong Yu had liked me for a long time. Like discovering a huge secret, I gathered the whole family together and then showed the evidence I found. I severely rebuked him, calling him terrible, a pervert, shameless. In fact, the content wasn't too explicit. But my mother had no choice. Finally, she fired Zhong Yu's mother. It was the second semester of senior high school at that time, and because of the transfer, no other school was willing to accept Jeonyu, so he ended up repeating a year of study. Later, he went to study in a foreign place for college. In my previous life, I thought that was the last time I would see Jeonyu, but it wasn't. By chance, 7 years later, we met again. At that time, Jeonyu's business venture was successful. He broke into the circle of business celebrities and became a powerful new business magnate that no one could underestimate. Our family's company, however, was in a slump and on the verge of bankruptcy, with no one willing to help. In desperation, I had to beg Jeonyu for help. To my surprise, he agreed, and he didn't even make any demands. We maintained our communication through an ordinary business partnership, until one business trip, an accident suddenly occurred. The oncoming truck seemed to have a brake failure and crashed straight into us. Jeonyu desperately turned the steering wheel towards me. At the moment of impact, he tightly protected me under his body. Before he died, he reached out and touched my cheek. His voice was dry and filled with sorrow. Xiaohe, you hate me, don't you? But even though you hate me so much, all these years, I still wondered if we could be together one day. He paused and suddenly smiled. But it's so tiring. Loving you is so tiring. If there is a next life, I think I don't want to like you anymore. The rescue came too late. In the end, the crashed truck caught fire. The flames spread violently. I closed my eyes, placed my fingers on Jeonyu's cheek, and whispered, "It doesn't matter. If we could start over, let me come to you, okay?" I never expected that I would return to my high school days, and just a while ago, I had taken out the stack of letters I found in Jeonyu's textbooks and thrown them in front of everyone. My mother came over and took my arm, carefully trying to soothe me. Alas, how could this happen? Although she was always kind-hearted, she loved me the most, so she looked at Jeonyu, then at Jeonyu's mother, and sighed. Since Xiaohe and Jeonyu really can't get along, there's no other way, we'll have to hire someone else. Jeonyu stood in the corner. The dim light cast a lonely shadow over him. He quickly stepped forward, gave a soft and his voice was cold and without the slightest hesitation. He said, "I'm sorry, it's my fault for causing trouble to you. I'll go pack my things now and leave with my mother." He turned around resolutely without even looking at me. This was exactly the same as in my previous life. I suddenly remembered that before he died, he tightly held my hand and said in a very low voice, "It's so tiring, Xiaohe, so tiring. It turns out that loving someone is such a tiring thing." I quickly picked up all the letters, then rushed forward and grabbed his wrist. "Wait, Jeonyu, what I meant was just..." I racked my brain and muttered softly, "It's better to focus on studying before the college entrance examination. Can we talk about this after the exam?" I lowered my voice for the last sentence, so only the two of us could hear it. Jeonyu suddenly turned his head and stared at me intently, his expression full of doubt and disbelief. After a long while, he pursed his lips and said to me word by word in a low voice, "Yuhi, I also have feelings. Why do you think that after you've trampled on my heart once, I'll offer it up again for you to humiliate?" He bit his lip, and his tone became much more decisive. "Now and in the future, I don't want to be with you anymore." In the end, it was my father who settled the matter. He thought highly of Jeonyu, not only because of his excellent academic performance, always ranking first in the grade, but also because, although he was just in high school, he had already shown great talent in business and investment. Sometimes, his sense in strategic business decisions was more acute than that of some professional managers. He really wanted to nurture such a promising young talent. In my previous life, if I hadn't made such a fuss, he would have turned a blind eye. Now, seeing me silently pick up the letters and stop making a scene, he coughed twice and made a decision. "What's all this talk about leaving? It's not a big deal, just a quarrel between kids." "Nonsense." He walked over and patted Jeonyu on the shoulder, his tone much more amiable. "Xiaohe doesn't know what she's saying, don't take it to heart. She's not good at studying, you should help her more. As for the rest, we trust you two to be sensible. Let's talk about it later." "Okay." Jeonyu seemed to want to say something, but my father simply waved his hand, ending the small family chaos I had caused. I knew Jeonyu wouldn't leave. He had always respected my father. Even out of respect for my father, he wouldn't leave immediately. Moreover, if he left now, there were many other things to consider, such as his mother's job, his studies, and the college entrance examination. A wave of self-blame welled up inside me, overwhelming me. I thought of my previous life. After the Yu family fell, I went to beg Zhongyu for help at that time. I was prepared to be humiliated, but he didn't do anything. After the investment in the Yu family was underway, by chance, we were both a bit drunk, and I casually mentioned, Zhongyu, to be honest, I thought, you would hate me and pretend not to know me. Zhongyu was stunned for a moment. He looked up at me, then poured himself a glass of wine and smiled. He nodded and said, yeah. I thought so too, but Yuhi, 7 years have passed. I also want to let go. Zhongyu said the last sentence with great hesitation and pain. It must have been a difficult process for him to convince himself to forget everything that had happened in the past 7 years. And now, I want to make things clear once and for all. We agreed that this time, I would be the one to chase after him. He wouldn't have to suffer as much as he did in the previous life. That night, I secretly went to the 3rd floor of the villa, Zhongyu's room. After standing at the door for a while, I finally mustered up the courage and knocked gently, but the door wasn't fully closed and opened by itself. Zhongyu was sitting at the desk, looking through textbooks and exercise books. When he heard the sound, he quickly turned around, but when he saw it was me, his face darkened immediately, and his voice was extremely cold. Yuhi, what are you doing here? Did I invite you in? In my previous life, our relationship had already started to improve, but now, we were back to the worst period of our relationship. I couldn't get used to his current cold attitude for a moment and stood there, stunned. The words I had prepared got stuck in my throat and I couldn't say them. Finally, after a long while, I managed to say, Zhongyu, I'm really bad at math. Can you help me take a look? As soon as I said this, I regretted it. The reason was simple. When Zhongyu used to follow me around, he had mentioned several times that he wanted to help me with my studies, but I had always scolded him back. I mocked him with all kinds of harsh words, like mind your own business, don't think you're so great just because you're good at studying, even if you get the first place, you still have to work for my family, right? I kept scolding him until he no longer dared to approach me and gradually became more reserved and silent. Sure enough, when I brought up the topic of tutoring again, Zhongyu curled his lips. His already impatient expression was tinged with a hint of confusion and sarcasm. He pushed the textbook aside, stood up, and walked slowly towards me. You were the one who wanted to keep a distance, and you were the one who didn't want to talk to me. Yuhi, weren't these all your words? What's wrong with you? Did you come up with a new and better way to deal with me and drive me out? Zhongyu stood in front of me. Frowning, looking disappointed, I suddenly realized that for the 18-year-old, newly adult Zhongyu, at this moment, it was very difficult for him to trust me. This realization made me blurt out, no. I took a deep breath, rubbed my eyes, and finally said the words I had wanted to say since I came up here, one by one. No, Zhongyu, I don't want to deal with you. I just want to apologize for everything I've done in the past, including the verbal abuse, the unnecessary coldness and humiliation, and so much more. I've grown up and I'm not as naive as I used to be. With all kinds of emotions swirling inside me, my next words were almost choked with sobs. So can you give me a chance? Can you try to forgive me? These words came from the bottom of my heart. So Zhongyu, can you give me another chance? I looked up at him softly. Zhongyu turned his face to the side. The previous expressions of weariness and suspicion seemed to be gradually fading away. He picked up the notebook he had been looking at earlier from the desk and threw it into my arms. If you want to improve your math, the knowledge points in this notebook are enough. Then he opened the door. Just as I was holding the exercise book, not knowing how to thank him, he made a gesture of invitation. He still didn't look at me, and his tone was still indifferent. There's no need to talk about forgiveness or not. I've already figured it out. You're a young lady, and you have the right to act willfully. It's only natural that you wouldn't like someone like me. Holding the doorknob, his cold gaze fell on me, making me feel a little ashamed. So you don't need to apologize to me. And don't come to me out of pity anymore. What does it feel like to be rejected twice by the same person in one day? Well, let me tell you, I really wanted to find a place to bury myself. After Zhongyu closed the door, I almost ran back to my room with my face covered. Then I threw myself onto the bed and the phone in my pocket fell out and rolled aside. Just then, someone called. The screen lit up. It was Lin Rua, my best friend. We were deskmates in high school and had a very close relationship. She went abroad for college and later married into an old, established wealthy family. I heard that the family had very strict rules for daughters-in-law, so we didn't contact each other much. When the Yu family declined, I once thought about asking her for help, but considering that she wasn't happy either, I gave up the idea in the end, seeing her name now. I was jolted awake. I immediately sat up and answered the phone. Yuhi, what are you doing? Lin Rua's voice came from the other end of the phone. She was probably outside, and it was a bit noisy around her. I'm at a bar. Xian's brother just closed a big deal and rented out the whole place. Come and have fun with us. In my previous life, I did go there, but now, just reborn and having gone through all this, I really wasn't in the mood. Lin Rua walked to a quieter place, and her voice became much clearer. Xiaohe, what's wrong? You sound unhappy. Did something happen? After 2 lifetimes, there are some things I can only talk to her about. After a moment of hesitation, I covered my face and let out a sigh. Rua, do you know that Zhongyu rejected me twice today? As soon as this name came up, Lin Rua's voice almost deafened my ears. She let out several exclamations of disbelief and asked in confusion, Zhongyu, Yuhi, are you crazy or am I? I clearly remember that you hated him very much. Don't tell me you're that kind of heartless girl who ignored him when he was chasing after you, but then noticed his goodness when he turned cold towards you. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Damn it, why did her words hit so hard? The worst part was that I couldn't refute them. Fine, fine, I grabbed my hair, feeling resigned. I was in the wrong, but you know how terrible my language skills are. That apology was already the best I could do. I don't know what to do next. Lin Rua was silent for a moment, seemingly deep in thought, then stopped trying to apologize. Zhongyu is willing to help you with your studies. Yuhi, isn't there anything you can do for him to fix the relationship? What did Zhongyu need? He was excellent in studies, good looking, and the company he founded caused a sensation in the entire tech industry. He successfully became one of the new business tycoons of the next generation. His life seemed to be going smoothly. And he didn't seem to lack anything. No, there was one thing, perhaps. I remembered that he had been planning to start a business since high school, but he had always lacked a crucial patent. It wasn't until college, when he met more people, that he learned the patent was actually in the hands of a university professor. Unfortunately, he was a step too late, and it was sold to his competitor. In my previous life, when Zhongyu and I were on a business trip and had a car accident, we were on our way to find an alternative to this patent. After all, it was still needed for the U Group's investment deal. Now that I was back in the past and could start over, if I could get this patent first, Zhongyu's business venture would probably go much more smoothly. At least, he wouldn't have to spend time running around looking for an unproven alternative. Thinking of this, I urgently sent a WeChat message to Lin Rua, asking for help. Rua, I remember your mom is a university teacher. Does she know a lot of people in the academic circle? Can you do me a favor and find someone for me? Lin Rua's mother was a well-known professor, and she had many friends engaged in research. I guessed it wouldn't take long to find out the identity of that professor, but I didn't expect that the first person to contact me about this wasn't Lin Rua, but Xian, the neighbor who lived next door to me. Xian and I grew up together. Technically, we were childhood sweethearts, and our relationship used to be very good, but after experiencing my previous life, I really didn't want to use this term to describe him. The Xie family's business was actually a bit larger than the Yu family's, so in my previous life, when the Yu family went bankrupt, the first person I thought of asking for help was Xian, but he didn't agree immediately. Instead, he lit a cigarette and suddenly asked me a question. Xiaohe, do you know the Chen family? I'm engaged to the Chen family's only daughter. We'll get married next month, probably. I looked up, confused. The Chen family seemed to be a prominent family from the south, and I hadn't had much contact with them, but this seemed irrelevant to me asking him for help. Right. Xian took a big puff of his cigarette, stared straight at me, and suddenly laughed. I used to think we would be together. Xiaohe, this kind of marriage is just for show. We can each do our own thing. If you don't mind the false reputation, and you're willing to stay by my side. He didn't finish his sentence because I had already stood up, picked up the coffee on the table, and poured it over his head. Xian, when did you become such a despicable person? I originally didn't want to pay attention to Xian, but after school, he directly blocked me outside our classroom. I couldn't avoid him, so I had to walk with him to the side of the corridor, standing there impatiently. I gritted my teeth and asked him in a low voice, what exactly do you want? On the other side, Xian looked confused. He was stunned for a while, seemingly unable to understand how, in just a few days, my attitude towards him had changed so drastically. Are you upset about something? You didn't reply to my text messages, Xian complained. but he still wore that gentlemanly mask on his face. He waved a business card in his hand at me and leaned towards me with a smile. But don't be angry with me. I heard that Xiaohe was looking for someone, so I immediately asked my family to help. How are you going to thank me? I blinked and quickly understood. The business card in Xian's hand was the contact information of the professor I was looking for. Probably that night at the bar, Lin Rua had mentioned it casually, and he had remembered it, but even so, I didn't want to owe Xian a favor. Moreover, the request he made was very annoying. Isn't the son of your family's servant very good at studying? He can even predict exam questions. Why don't you get his notes, and we can study them together? Crazy, I thought with a frown, before I could refuse. I glanced to the side. Suddenly, I saw Zhongyu. He was holding a stack of test papers. He had just come out of the teacher's office. As he passed by, his gaze seemed to casually rest on us for a few seconds, and then it moved away. I didn't know how much he had seen or heard, but his expression was as if we were the most insignificant strangers he had ever met. I didn't expect to run into Zhongyu, since school was already over. I thought he had left long ago. I pushed Xian aside forcefully and chased after Zhongyu. Zhongyu. I gently tugged at his sleeve and took a breath. Why pretend you didn't see me? Let's go home together. Being pulled by me, Zhongyu finally stopped. When he turned his head to look at me, there was a hint of weariness in his expression, and his voice was deep. What do you want? If there's nothing else, stop following me. Miss you. Isn't your childhood sweetheart waiting to walk home with you? Go to him. I was stunned, in my previous life, to distance myself from Zhongyu, even though we lived together. When the driver came to pick us up from school, I would deliberately go to the Xie family's car and let Zhongyu go home alone. Over time, he understood and would rather take the bus than walk with me. In this new life, I didn't want Zhongyu to misunderstand again, so I took this opportunity to explain clearly. I have nothing to do with Xian. I don't like him. We're not childhood sweethearts, and we're not even very good friends. He came to me because he heard from Lin Rua that I was looking for someone. Before I could finish, Zhongyu interrupted me. Why are you telling me this? Don't flatter yourself. Do you think I care about the relationship between you two? Whether you fall in love, get engaged, or get married in the future, it has nothing to do with me. I really have no interest at all. He emphasized the last sentence very strongly. Actually, just now, I had an irrational thought, a little bit of joy. Did Zhongyu care when he saw me standing with another boy? But when he interrupted me and said those last words, it was like a bucket of cold water suddenly poured over me, soaking me completely. It made me wonder if there was any point in my pursuit and persistence until now. In my previous life, Zhongyu said he liked me, but in this life, had his feelings changed? I lowered my eyes dejectedly, forced a smile that seemed indifferent, nodded, waved at him, and stepped back. You're right. I'm a bit annoying, but Mr. Zhong, you've rejected me 3 times. There's a limit to everything. Even I, can get hurt, you know. After saying that, I turned around and ran away with my hands behind my back. There were tears in the corners of my eyes, and I felt like crying, so I ran away quickly, as if escaping. I didn't turn around, so I naturally didn't see that behind me. Zhongyu was tightly gripping the test papers in his hand, his body tense. Could he really get hurt? He stared at the end of the corridor, his eyes dark. She was lying, he thought. He didn't believe it. He had always been heartless, and no one could get anything from her. Her pestering him now was just a whim. Once she got what she wanted, she would quickly get bored. But suddenly, an inexplicable sense of panic and restlessness surrounded him, making him uneasy. He suddenly remembered Yuhi's disappointed and sad eyes just now. Wouldn't she really give up on him? I took a taxi and went home. As soon as I entered the villa, the family driver came up and handed me a document bag. At the same time, my phone rang. It was Lin Rua. The moment the video call connected, her voice came through, loud and excited. Xiaohe, did you get the document bag? I found the contact information you wanted, the business card, the professor's information, and a temporary university access pass are all in there. Thoughtful, right? She spoke without pausing. Coincidentally, I heard that this big shot was a bit of a dunce in school and often copied my mom's test papers during exams, so don't worry, as long as it's not illegal, he'll basically help with anything. She winked at me and gave me a meaningful look. I don't believe that when Zhongyu sees our gentle, beautiful, and lovely Xiaohe, who's going all out to think of him, he won't have any feelings at all. Lin Rua hung up the phone. I looked at my phone. Actually, I could have taken it to school tomorrow. But I don't know why. I suddenly really wanted to see him right away. Maybe it was because this phone call connected my previous life and this life. I still wanted to give myself another chance to make things clear in person. After a moment of hesitation, I stopped the driver. "Can you take me back to school?" I ran back to school, out of breath, with my school bag on my back. Organizing test papers was a troublesome task. And there was also the work of transcribing scores and ranking students. At this time, Zhongyu should still be there. But when I climbed the stairs and stood outside the classroom again, I found it empty. The door was slightly ajar, and the lights were on, but where was he? I scratched my nose and was about to take out my phone to call him when a security guard on patrol walked over. When he saw me, he frowned and asked, "Are you looking for the boy who was just in this classroom? I heard you on the phone. He's already gone down to the playground." I didn't pay attention to any phone call. I only heard the words playground. I thanked the security guard and then turned around and ran downstairs. The night was dark, only the streetlights near the basketball hoops were on, casting a dim yellow light. Zhongyu's tall and slender figure stood out clearly. In front of him stood another girl. I had seen her in my previous life. The first investment in Zhongyu's startup came from her family. She was probably the one who pulled him out of the abyss. I had always thought that in this new life, I was making up for the kindness Zhongyu had shown me. Without the important technology, I would help him contact the professor. If there was a lack of investment, the Yu family could assist, but now it seemed that Zhongyu was right. It was me who was being presumptuous. Zhongyu didn't need me. In my previous life, without me by his side, he still lived a good life. Even without the patent and the Yu family's funding, step by step, although it was slower, he could still reach the top. In this new life, perhaps the best choice was to let him be free and not interfere with each other. Standing in the corner, my mind was filled with these jumbled thoughts, until Zhongyu turned around. Our eyes met. I opened my mouth slightly and smiled as I called his name, Zhongyu. At that moment, his expression suddenly became flustered, and his face turned pale. I don't know why, but after understanding all this, I actually felt relieved. Those feelings of sadness and distress were all gone. I waved at Zhongyu and the girl beside him. In my memories of 2 lifetimes, she was a very gentle girl. She smiled, said a few more words to Zhongyu, then tugged at her school bag strap and turned to leave. On the contrary, Zhongyu strode towards me in a hurry. He reached out his hand and then put it down, as if he wanted to grab my wrist, but I took a step back to keep a distance from him. Then, in his somewhat dazed gaze, I handed him the document bag. "You probably need this. This professor has in-depth research on this technology. You can try to contact him." Zhongyu suddenly looked up. He held the document bag but didn't open it. He didn't ask me why I knew about the difficulties in his current startup. His voice was a bit hoarse. "Okay, I'll work hard, Yuhi. I won't let you down." When he looked up at me, his eyes were shining brightly, as if stars were rising in them. I nodded too. Of course, Zhongyu would succeed sooner or later, but the next moment, I felt sorry because I had chased the other person away because of me. I scratched the tip of my nose and pointed in the direction the girl had left. "I have nothing else. Do you want to chase after her?" The glimmer of hope that had just emerged faded away in an instant. Zhongyu seemed to stumble and then anxiously followed behind me. "Don't get me wrong," he explained awkwardly, his voice strained. "There's nothing between her and me. We just met recently because some time ago, I happened to." I interrupted him. "There's no need to explain. You don't have to report to me who you date or be friends with." "Then," I said earnestly, "Zhongyu, I wish you success, happiness, and freedom. May all your wishes come true." After deciding to stop my presumptuous pursuit of Zhongyu, I had a sound sleep. It was the best sleep I'd had since being reborn, peaceful, reassuring, and content. When I woke up the next day and picked up my phone, I found a long string of messages from Zhongyu in our chat window, sent close to midnight. They were about the girl on the basketball court yesterday. It turned out that a few days ago, the girl's father had a sudden heart attack. Zhongyu happened to pass by and took him to the hospital. She came specifically to thank him and invited him to visit her home when he was free. I didn't know about this in my previous life, but thinking about it, it made sense. Otherwise, why would she invest in him without hesitation? There must have been elements of gratitude involved. Looking at this long explanation, I didn't know how to reply. After some thought, I put the phone down again. After all, I had more important things to do now. Study. In my previous life, my grades were mediocre, hovering around the middle of the class. I barely managed to get into an ordinary university. Logically, as someone who had been reborn, I should have forgotten all my high school knowledge, but after the Yu family went bankrupt, in order to save money to pay off debts, I didn't just rely on others for help. I took on several jobs, working long, consecutive hours, many large companies. Upon hearing that I was from the Yu family, refused to interview me out of sheer curiosity. The highest paying part-time job I found was tutoring high school students. To improve my teaching level, I stayed up late watching teaching videos, painstakingly reviewing all the knowledge points I had missed, and even studied them more thoroughly and seriously. This was why, even though the college entrance examination was just a few months away after my rebirth, I could remain calm. When I arrived at the classroom, the previous monthly exam papers were already on my desk. Jean, you must have spent time organizing them after school yesterday. The class rankings for each subject were written in the top right corner. Lin Rua turned around from the front row, took a look, and sighed. Xiaohe, your math still isn't good. Do you want me to give you the contact information of one of my mom's students? I heard he got a perfect score on the college entrance examination math. This paper was the one I took before being reborn. My level remained the same, so my grades were naturally average. I shook my head, about to decline, when Zhongyu, carrying a stack of books, happened to pass by the aisle. His gaze casually glanced at my paper, then he stopped. You drew the auxiliary line in the wrong place for this big question. There are two relatively simple ways to solve it, and they're less likely to lead to mistakes. As if afraid I would refuse. He coughed twice and glanced at me cautiously. Didn't your father ask me to help you with your studies? Zhongyu's offer really made me hesitate for a moment. At first, I suggested he tutor me to get closer to him, but now, I weighed my options. Should I study on my own or study with Zhongyu? Quickly, I made my decision. I had my own rhythm, and following my own study habits would probably yield better results. I looked up at Zhongyu and smiled. Then took out the notebook he gave me last time from my bag and shook my head. I've read this. It's really detailed and well organized. I've learned a lot from it. I think this is enough. Did you quarrel with Zhongyu? Lin Rua peeked at me curiously. A few days ago, you were all about chasing him. Now that you have a legitimate chance to be together, why are you focusing on studying instead? Lin Rua was a dance major. Her family had already paved the way for her future, so she didn't have much pressure from exams. Maybe in the past, I would have thought the same way, but after experiencing my previous life, I knew that to prevent the Yu family from going bankrupt, it wasn't just about avoiding a certain scheme from our competitors or a failed investment. More importantly, I needed to make myself strong enough to truly take over the company when my father got old. This second chance at life was like another opportunity. I rented a 24-hour study room and went there every day after school to study and do exercises. Just like when I was desperate and had nothing after the bankruptcy. During this time, I reviewed past exam papers and completed most of the well-known exercise books on the market. As the exam approached, during the final sprint stage, I opened the notebook Zhongyu gave me. It was meticulously organized, categorizing various methods, common mistakes, and even prediction questions. Most of the content targeted my weak areas. As I went through it page by page, at the end, a strangely shaped photo fell out from the loose leaf pages. It must have been put in there by accident, and its edges were slightly yellowed. I bent down to pick it up. It was a group photo of our entire class taken at the beginning of high school. Because of traffic congestion, Zhongyu and I were late and stood at the back of the class. He cut out the other classmates, leaving only the two of us. As far as I could remember, this was the only photo we had together in all those years. On the back, he wrote our names in his usual neat and strong handwriting. Yuhi, Zhongyu, meet at the peak. After the college entrance examination results were announced, Zhongyu maintained his excellent performance, ranking first in the city. It was said that the admissions offices of Tsinghua University and Peking University had already started calling him. Meanwhile, my name also shocked the whole school. As a student who usually ranked in the middle of the class, I had an outstanding performance and ranked second in the school. This score was high enough for me to choose any top major at universities across the country. The school hung up banners, and TV stations wanted to interview me about my study tips. My father was so excited that he almost fainted. He even wanted to create a big poster and send it to every employee in the company. Fortunately, my mother and I reacted quickly and strongly opposed the idea, preventing him from carrying out this impractical plan. Over the 2 lifetimes, some things had changed slightly. For example, Xian didn't perform well in this exam, in the previous life. Before the college entrance examination, Zhongyu put the notes and some predicted questions he had compiled into my desk. I didn't want to look at them, and in the end, Xian took them. As a result, one of the big questions was exactly what Zhongyu had predicted, and Xian got more than 10 extra points. This time, due to those 10 points, his college application didn't meet the requirements, and he was dropped to the next batch. I heard his father was very dissatisfied and considering making him repeat a year of study. As for me, I had also decided on the university I wanted to attend. In my previous life, I studied art and design. Although I liked it, it was of little use for running the company. This time, I carefully selected a university with strong business and finance programs and went to Lin Rua's house to fill out the college application form with her. Just before submitting the form, my phone rang. A WeChat message popped up. It was from Zhongyu. We hadn't contacted each other for many days. There was only one line: "Have you decided which university to go to?" The setting sun shone through the window, casting a warm and pleasant glow. I typed a reply: "Yes, I'm going to University A in the north. What about you?" He seemed to be typing and deleting his message for a long time. After much thought, he finally sent a message: "Ah, what a coincidence. I'm also planning to apply to University A. Its science and engineering programs are among the best in the country. And I'm just planning to develop in that direction." The wind blew in, and outside were large white clouds. It was a beautiful day. "Okay," I replied, "let's work hard together." Zhongyu. After entering university, the company Zhongyu founded developed even faster than in the previous life. This time, more investment companies noticed him in advance and expressed their intention to invest and cooperate. He also moved his mother out of the Yu family's villa, bought a separate apartment, and hired a caregiver to take care of her. He was very busy, and we didn't see each other often, only occasionally running into each other in public classes, at grade-level ceremonies, or at alumni gatherings. Every time, he seemed to come prepared, bringing me gifts, such as newly launched products from his company or snacks and pastries his mother made at home. The most recent time was at the end of the summer vacation when we agreed to take a plane back to school together. When we reached the school gate, he scratched the tip of his nose and said to me, "Xiaohe, my company is preparing for an IPO. I'll be doing a financial interview on TV in a few days. Would you watch it?" His eyes were bright, suddenly reminding me of that night in high school when I handed him the document bag and the spark that lit up in his eyes at that moment. The interview was scheduled for a week later in the evening. My roommates and I were all in the dormitory. I originally planned to watch the live broadcast on my phone while lying on the bed, but one of my roommates suddenly stood up, held her laptop, and suggested, "Hey, do you know Zhongyu from the School of Mathematics?" I went to a club activity and heard many people talking about him. He not only founded a company but is also preparing for an IPO. There's an interview with him tonight. Don't you want to watch? He's the most famous figure among our grade. This is a must-see. That's when I realized how famous Zhongyu had become among our classmates. The others also moved their stools closer. I was halfway up the ladder to my bed, but I had to come back down and join them. When we entered the live streaming room, the school's network malfunctioned. We spent a long time trying to fix it. By the time we finally got connected, it was already the intermission. The host, holding a small notebook, was chatting casually with Zhongyu. "There aren't many people who start a business in university, right? I heard you were the top scorer in the city for the college entrance examination. With so much talent, there must be a lot of girls who like you at school. Are you single?" One of my roommates commented while munching on sunflower seeds. The host really knows how to get to the point. So many people are curious about Zhongshan's private life. His fans line up from the School of Mathematics all the way to the auditorium. I wonder if he's not interested in girls at all. Could he be gay? On the screen, Zhongyu sat upright. He touched his fingers, thought for a moment, and then smiled. "Well, I already have someone I like. I've liked her for a very long time." Suddenly, the dormitory fell silent, and everyone stared intently at the computer screen. The host was taken aback. "Haven't you confessed to her?" Zhongyu shook his head. "Her world seems so far away from mine. She comes from a top-notch family, is beautiful, and popular. I always felt I wasn't good enough for her. I didn't think she could like me either." He smiled, "But for a while, she was actually very proactive towards me, but at that time I was too insecure. I was always afraid it was just a fleeting moment. that she was just having a whim. I thought that only when I became excellent and successful enough could I stand beside her one day. The host nodded and pressed on, what about now? You're already very successful. Zhong Yu lowered his head, deep in thought. I don't know, he said softly, I want to call her. Is that okay? Outside the dormitory, the cicadas chirped, just like the summer after the college entrance examination when he asked me which university I was going to apply to. At that moment, my phone rang. In an instant, everyone in the dormitory turned to look at me. I answered the phone, and Zhong Yu's voice came through. Xiaohe, did you watch my interview today? I hummed an affirmation. He paused for a moment, and his voice became hoarse. Then you must have heard what I said just now. Yuhi, would you still accept me? I tapped the table with my fingers. It was a beautiful day, I said, of course. I've been waiting for you, Zhong Yu. I took over the family company, having avoided the investment traps from my previous life. This time, the U group developed very smoothly. I recruited several recent graduates from the university and started training my own confidants and successors. Among them was a girl who was hard-working and dedicated. However, she was always arguing with her boyfriend, causing various relationship problems. When she came to organize my documents, she often asked me, President Yu, why do you and President Zhong have such a good relationship? Don't people who grow up together ever have cold wars? The villa was silent. I had no choice but to give her a rambling account of our high school days. The girl sat on a small stool, resting her chin in her hand, listening intently. She frowned and commented, Sister Yu, you have such a good temper. If my boyfriend said he didn't care who I was with, I'd definitely slap him twice. I laughed. Zhong Yu has already eaten his words himself. She looked at me again. So when did you change your mind? When did I change my mind? I knew Zhong Yu well, so I was never disappointed or resentful towards him. If I had to pick a turning point, perhaps it was the day we filled out our college application forms and he said he was also going to University A. In the previous life, despite getting a high score after repeating a year of study, he went to a university in the south. I later asked him if University A was the school he originally wanted to apply to. He smiled and looked at me. At that time, I only had one thought. I felt that I had to go to the same place as you, Xiaohe, or I was afraid I would never be able to catch up with you again. Story 2. When the car accident happened, Jian Yan instinctively protected his white moonlight and pushed me towards death. He said with full confidence, I know you're a strategist who can be reborn, but he didn't know. That was my last chance to complete the strategy mission. When the out-of-control truck rushed towards the sidewalk, I was arguing with Jian Yan. Today was the second anniversary of our relationship, but he was 2 whole hours late because he went to pick up his white moonlight who had just returned from abroad. Can you stop being so petty? Jian Yan stood by the roadside, looking at me with disappointment in his eyes. Yao Yao grew up with me. She has no one to rely on in the country. Is it reasonable for me not to pick her up? I questioned him. So you plan to spend today with the 3 of us together? Jian Yan was at a loss for words and didn't say anything. It was Xing Yao Yao behind him. Her eyes moved back and forth between us. When she opened her mouth, she almost burst into tears. Sister Xiaozhu, don't be angry. Ian just thought I was pitiful, so he said he wanted to take me out for a meal. There were tears in her eyes. And she looked like a little white flower swaying in the wind. If you don't welcome me, I'll just leave. After saying that, she turned around and was about to leave. Jian Yan was quick-eyed and stopped her. He turned back and gave me a glance, his tone warning, Shinju, if you keep acting so unreasonably, we'll break up. I was stunned. In the 2 years of dating Jiang Yan, whenever something didn't go his way, he would threaten to break up with me just like now, at this moment. The system's reminder sounded in my mind, warning, breaking up will be judged as a failed strategy mission. And once the strategy mission fails, not only will I not get the mission reward, but I will also be eliminated. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Jiang Yan smiled contentedly and came over to hold my hand. Okay, Xiaozhu, we won't break up. We'll have a meal and then send her home, okay? I dug my nails into my palm and forced a smile, okay? Perhaps thinking that he had me under control, Jiang Yan was in a good mood all the way. He put his arm around my waist, leaned down slightly, and said in a low voice, Xiaozhu, you're so good. Such an intimate gesture made Xing Yao Yao, who was following behind us, turn pale, but I didn't have the heart to pay attention to her, because before trying to win over Jiang Yan, I had observed him for a long time. The former Jiang Yan was mature and steady, not at all like he was now. So childish as to force me to submit by threatening to break up. What on earth, what was wrong? I was lost in thought when suddenly there was a harsh car horn sound in my ear. Beep beep beep. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw an out-of-control truck rushing towards the sidewalk, straight at us. The crowd immediately panicked. Screams filled the air. Jian Yan tried to pull me and run at the first moment. But when he turned around and saw Xing Yaoyao standing there motionless, she was crying pitifully. Ian, save me, I don't want to die. Jian Yan panicked instantly. He instinctively shook off my hand, but he didn't control the strength well. I was wearing high heels, lost my balance, and was suddenly pushed by him. I fell to the ground and was in so much pain that I couldn't stand up. Jian Yan, I shouted at his back with all my strength. He paused for a moment but didn't look back. He rushed towards Xing Yaoyao and took her to a safe place. Seeing that the out-of-control truck was getting closer and closer to me, everyone was running for their lives, and no one cared whether I lived or died. Bang, accompanied by the harsh sound of tires rubbing and the intense pain in my body, I clearly realized that I was dying. After the heart-wrenching pain, there was a sudden flash of white light in front of my eyes. When I regained consciousness, my soul was already floating in the air. The system let out a sigh. Host, you're dead again. Why did it say again? Because during the process of winning over Jian Yan, I had actually died twice already. The first time was by drowning. Given a choice between me and Xing Yaoyao, Jian Yan chose Xing Yaoyao. The second time was during an earthquake. Given a choice again, Jian Yan still chose Xing Yaoyao. This time, in the car accident, given a choice once more, Jian Yan chose Xing Yaoyao. The system asked me, I advised you to change the target of the strategy before, but you didn't agree. Do you regret it now? I said, no, I don't regret it. There was a moment of silence in the air. The system was extremely angry, and its usually cold electronic voice even carried a bit of the tone of being angry at someone's failure to live up to expectations. Host, do you know that just now was your last chance to complete the strategy mission? Do you understand what the last chance means? Of course I understood. This meant that I could no longer be reborn, but I really didn't regret it. At the beginning, we made an agreement that if the strategy was successful, you could exchange for a reward. Now that you've failed, you also have to accept the corresponding punishment. I let out an sound. I asked it, what kind of punishment? Your soul will be forever imprisoned by Jian Yan's side. As soon as the words fell, an invisible force sent me back to the scene of the car accident. The wind whistled in my ears. The system's questioning voice echoed in the air. What on earth is so good about Jian Yan? Is he worth you wasting all your chances to stay by his side? I should have just left you alone and let you fend for yourself since I knew you were so infatuated with love. I blinked my sore eyes, remained silent for a long time, and then said softly, well, leave me alone. The system never expected that I would give such an answer. It didn't understand why I was so persistent with Jian Yan. It angrily scolded me a few words and simply went into hibernation. I floated and sat on the roof of the car boredly, propping up my chin and looking at the chaotic crowd. I saw two familiar figures at a glance. Xing Yaoyao was tugging at the corner of Jian Yan's clothes and talking, but he seemed not to hear her and just stared at me motionlessly. Oh, no. He was looking at my body that had been crushed by the truck. Everything around seemed to stand still. After a long time, he suddenly pushed Xing Yaoyao away and stumbled towards me. He even fell down on the way, and blood was flowing from his palm. My body was already unrecognizable. He just took one look and couldn't bear to look anymore, turning his head away. I was a bit far away and saw his lips move, as if he was mumbling to himself. I quickly flew over and got close to him. But the moment I heard what he said clearly, a thunderbolt seemed to explode on my scalp. He said, Xiaozhu, you'll definitely be okay. I know you're a strategist and can be reborn. You've died twice before, and you came back to life in the end. This time will be the same, right? As he spoke, he seemed to regain his faith. He took a deep breath, wiped his face, and said firmly, I'll wait for you to come back. I was extremely shocked. No wonder Jian Yan knew that he could easily control me by threatening to break up, because he had known from the very beginning that I was a strategist, but he didn't know that that was my last chance to complete the strategy mission. Jian Yan, I can't come back. The ambulance and the police car arrived at the same time. When the doctor wanted to move my body into the car, Jian Yan firmly blocked them. No, don't touch Xiaozhu. She's not dead, she'll wake up in a few days. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. The doctor comforted him. Mr. Jiang, I know you can't accept it for a while, but your girlfriend is already dead, you should take care of your health." When Jiang Yan heard the word dead, his emotions immediately became agitated. He grabbed the doctor's white coat, the veins on his arm bulged, and he shouted, "Shut up, Xiaozhu is not dead, how could she die? She clearly..." His voice stopped abruptly. I saw the nurse give him an injection. It should be a sedative or something similar. He let out a hiss of pain, stepped back with his hand covering his arm, and soon fainted on the stretcher bed. The atmosphere in the ambulance was heavy. No one spoke during the whole journey, until the nurse who was cleaning Jiang Yan's wound let out a gasp. Everyone followed her gaze and saw that Jiang Yan was crying. He was still in a coma and didn't have a clear perception. But the tears that spilled from the corners of his eyes had already soaked the dark stretcher bed. His relationship with his girlfriend should be really good, right? What a pity. Hearing these sighs, I couldn't help but sneer. If they had seen the former Jiang Yan, they would know how much he hated me. The year I met Jiang Yan was the darkest period of my life. My parents got divorced, and neither of them wanted me. The only person in the world who was good to me passed away in the winter jasmine season that year, after being diagnosed with depression. When I held a small knife and wanted to stab it into my abdomen for the first time, the system found me. It said that as long as I completed the strategy mission and helped it achieve its key performance indicator, KPI, I could exchange for a reward. My eyelids twitched, and I asked it, "Can it bring back the dead?" The system was extremely certain. Of course it can. It gave me a few days to personally select the target of the strategy mission, but I wasn't interested in anyone, until I met Jiang Yan in the martyrs' cemetery. He was sitting on the long steps, and the fine spring rain wet the broken hair on his forehead. He didn't speak or cry, he just sat there quietly. The wind blew the willow branches. I stood not far away and stared at the tear mole at the corner of his eye for a long time. Then I opened my mouth gently and told the system, "I want to choose him. The difficulty of winning him over is very high, and before you." The system hesitated and then reminded me, "There have been several strategists who were eliminated because of failure. Are you sure?" I nodded firmly. The system couldn't persuade me. Helplessly, it helped me apply for 3 chances to complete the strategy mission. The higher the difficulty coefficient, the more chances for the strategy mission. From that day on, I spent time observing Jiang Yan and found that he was gentle, modest, and polite to everyone, but such a person spoke rudely to me the first time he saw me. "TSK, tell me, did you sprain your ankle this time, or are you just going to throw yourself into my arms directly?" I was taken aback. He squinted his eyes at me and sneered, "What are you pretending to be stupid for? Even if women like you strip naked and stand in front of me, I still won't like you." I didn't understand what he meant at that time. Now that I think about it, he should have known that I was a strategist at that time. Otherwise, why would he reject me so much? Later, I always stayed by his side at a distance that was neither too far nor too close. Once, his friend called me and said that he had a stomachache and asked me to go and bring him medicine. When I arrived, I saw him sitting on the sofa full of energy. He asked me, "Why are you here again? You're really persistent." I pursed my lips and didn't say anything, just handed the medicine to him. He didn't take it. Instead, he leaned forward slightly and said in my ear, "Since you're already here, let me treat you to a drink." Okay. As soon as the words fell, my vision went blurry. Red wine was poured all over my head, flowing down my cheeks and wetting my chest all the way. The clothes in summer are very thin, and even the color of the camisole could be seen clearly. Jiang Yan glanced at me frivolously, seeing that I didn't react at all. He seemed even angrier. "You've been humiliated like this by me and were watched by so many people. Shinju, don't you have any self-esteem?" Only then did I look up at him. The flickering light fell on that face as clear as the breeze and the moon, and the tear mole at the corner of his eye seemed to be about to fall. At that moment, I opened my mouth, but I couldn't say a word of retort. It's hard to imagine that such a person would actually agree to be with me later. It was a drag racing competition. Jiang Yan surprisingly gave me an invitation. When I arrived, I happened to see him standing on the podium, hugging 2 hot car model girls. Our eyes met, and he smiled at me, a very bad smile. Then, under my gaze, he slowly kissed their lips. "You want to be with me, right, now, do you still want to?" After getting off the stage, he asked me this. I wiped the remaining lipstick from the corner of his mouth and said without hesitation, "Yes, I do." He looked at me for a long time, his eyes dark and unclear. Suddenly, he grabbed my wrist, pointed at the racing car not far away, and asked me fiercely, Do you dare to play a game of speed of life and death? If you win, we'll be together. The gameplay of speed of life and death is very wild. The two cars collide, and whoever breaks first loses. The whole audience was in an uproar. Several girls tried to smooth things over for me. Come on, forget it. Shinju has no experience at all. Aren't you forcing her to play with her life? Yeah, don't let the girl get hurt. Jiang Yan was indifferent, and I looked up at his face and slowly said two words, sure. The man's pupils suddenly shrank, and something seemed to flash in his eyes. I couldn't tell what it was. Anyway, in that game, he was the one who stepped on the brake first in the end, when I got out of the car. My stomach was churning, and I staggered and fell to my knees on the ground. Jiang Yan angrily threw his helmet, pulled me up, and roared at me, "Are you crazy? Don't you care about your life?" And I just looked at him calmly and asked, "Can we be together now?" His eyes were red, and he was speechless for a long time. Just like that, we naturally started dating for 2 years. Everyone said that I was deeply in love with Jiang Yan, but every time these words reached Jiang Yan's ears, he would always stare at me intently, the corners of his thin lips curving into a sarcastic arc. Love, women like this are the best at lying. She doesn't love me at all. I lowered my eyes and didn't say anything. After that, he often brought women home, tested my bottom line, and always threatened to break up to force me to compromise. Later, Xing Yaoyao returned to the country. There were 3 times of choosing between 2 people. I died each time because of Jiang Yan's choice. Each time I died, the world restarted, until I used up my last chance to complete the strategy mission and could no longer be reborn. In fact, if you think about it carefully, how could the person being strategized show compassion for a strategist with false feelings when they know everything? After all, I was too naive. When Jiang Yan woke up, I was floating around boredly in the ward. The door was suddenly pushed open. Xing Yaoyao walked forward with red eyes, firmly grabbed his hand, and asked with concern, "Ian, are you feeling better? You really scared me just now." She was referring to what Jiang Yan said at the scene of the car accident, that I would wake up again, but obviously, Jiang Yan didn't want to talk to her much. He propped himself up, unlocked his phone, looked at the time, and suddenly said in surprise, 2 hours have already passed. Xing Yaoyao didn't understand and asked in agreement, "Yeah, what's wrong?" Jiang Yan's eyes flickered violently with emotions. His fingers couldn't help but tremble slightly, and his voice was tight. "This is impossible. It's absolutely impossible." Xing Yaoyao was scared by him and stood there stunned, not daring to say anything. The first 2 times, the world restarted less than half an hour after I died, but this time, 2 hours had passed, and the world was still going on. Jiang Yan suddenly stood up, his expression desolate, like a trapped beast. After a moment, he seemed to think of something, pulled out the indwelling needle, and ran outside. Xing Yaoyao quickly chased after him. I floated behind them, secretly guessing where Jiang Yan would go, until the familiar house number appeared in front of my eyes. I realized that he had come to my home. When the door lock was pried open, Jiang Yan rushed in at the first moment and started searching for my figure everywhere. "Xiaozhu, I know you're not dead. Are you hiding from me?" There was no one in the living room, no one in the kitchen, and no one in the study. Finally, it was my bedroom. After pushing the door open, he suddenly stopped, as if he was nailed there, unable to even take a step, because the 4 snow-white walls were covered with photos. He looked at them one by one, and a thin layer of red gradually appeared at the corners of his eyes. "Ian, you took so many photos with her." Xing Yaoyao's face was ugly, and the jealousy in her eyes couldn't be suppressed at all. "We've known each other for more than 10 years, and you've never..." Halfway through her words, she suddenly fell silent. Jiang Yan stared at her fixedly, his face turning gray and then pale. He almost squeezed out these 4 words from his throat, "This isn't me." I looked at the man with a warm smile in the photos and couldn't help but bend my lips. Yes, that wasn't Jiang Yan. Why did I choose him as my target for the strategy mission at first sight? Why did I waste all 3 chances on him? Wasn't it just because of his face, that face exactly like his? The window on the balcony wasn't closed tightly. The evening wind blew into the room and blew down a group photo. Jiang Yan picked it up. When he saw the beautiful handwriting on the back, his eyes suddenly turned red. "Wish my little bamboo peace and safety. Lin Su, memories, like the wind at dusk." Slowly dispelled the haze in my heart. The first time I heard the name Lin Su, it was in the afternoon of the class division exam at the beginning of the 2nd year of high school. 10 years ago, my deskmate was a hooligan who even copied my homework. Before the exam, He asked me to help him cheat, but I refused, so that day after school, he blocked me at the back door of the classroom and laughed at me in front of all the classmates. "Fatty girl, you're ugly, and you're not kind-hearted either. Letting you pass the answers is doing a good deed and accumulating virtue, understand, you don't appreciate it, no wonder you're fat and ugly." At that time, because I had taken a lot of traditional Chinese medicine to treat acne, the hormones in my body were disordered, and I was really as fat as a little penguin. Many classmates were echoing. I blushed and was overwhelmed by a sense of inferiority. In the midst of so many taunts, suddenly a clear male voice interjected, "Are you so proud of commenting on a girl's appearance?" My eyes followed the sound. A boy in a black t-shirt and a black baseball cap stood beside me with his hands in his pockets. Later I learned that his name was Lin Su, a senior 2 years older than me. Lin Su raised his chin, motioned to my deskmate with his eyes, and said in a contemptuous tone, "I'm asking you, trash bug, you don't know how to respect girls, do you?" My deskmate was stunned for a moment. After reacting, he cursed and took off his school uniform jacket. About to start a fight, Lin Su took 2 steps forward and stood in front of me. I don't remember clearly what happened next. Before the fight, Lin Su put his hat on my head, and my vision was completely blocked. I could only hear the painful grunts of my deskmate. When it was quiet around me, I slowly looked up and met a pair of cold eyes. "It's okay now, you can go home." Lin Su's voice was very low, but it carried a soothing power. From that day on, my deskmate never troubled me again and even took the initiative to ask the teacher to change seats. I knew that Lin Su had helped, because several times when I was going home after school, I saw him hooking my deskmate's shoulder. He seemed to be smiling, but his eyes were extremely cold. "Ah, bro, just forgive me, I'll never bully girls again." Lin Su frowned and kicked him. "Has your mouth learned to be good? Good. Good, very good." When his expression softened a bit, my deskmate rode away on his bike. I was very grateful to Lin Su, so I bought a bunch of snacks to thank him. He was playing basketball with his friends at that time. After hearing why I came, he raised his eyebrows, lowered his head and took the cheapest lollipop, and smiled at me. "Thanks, you can keep the rest." Just like that, I carried the snacks back to the classroom. After school, when passing by the grocery store, Lin Su and his friends were walking in front. A few meters away, I heard someone ask him, "Who's the girl who gave you snacks this afternoon? Her face is pretty, but she's too fat." I subconsciously held my breath, wanting to hear the answer. Lin Su suddenly stopped, punched the man on the shoulder, and said seriously, "Shut up." After walking a few steps, he took out the lollipop from his pocket, unwrapped it, and put it in his mouth, saying vaguely, "She's quite cute." My steps stopped in place. Looking at their receding backs, I suddenly realized that was the first time someone described me as cute. It was as if an electric current passed through the tip of my heart, making it tingle. The schoolwork in the 3rd year of high school was very heavy, and I lost more than 20 pounds from being tired. Gradually, many boys began to chase me and write me love letters, but because of this, I was excluded by a small group of girls. They called me to a corner where no one was around, a place where the surveillance couldn't reach. I was pinned to the ground. The girl in the lead took a cup of boiling water and poured it on my calf little by little. "You were so fat before, now that you've lost weight, you're even wearing a short skirt. Huh, who are you seducing? Are you very proud that my boyfriend wrote you a love letter?" I was in so much pain that I couldn't speak clearly, and my voice was intermittent. "Who's your boyfriend?" This sentence seemed to offend her somehow. She got even angrier and told the others to hold my chin. The boiling water was poured towards my face. I closed my eyes subconsciously, but the imagined pain didn't come. Instead, I fell into a warm embrace. The boy's firm chest muscles almost suffocated me. "How are you? Are you okay?" Hearing the familiar clear voice, I suddenly opened my eyes and found that my back was already soaked in cold sweat. The girl was pushed to the ground and let out a scream. The boiling water scalded her own face. The commotion was so loud that when the dean came, those girls were so scared that they confessed everything. Lin Su greeted the dean and then picked me up in his arms and rushed all the way to the school infirmary. When disinfecting and applying a cold compress, it hurt so much that I wanted to cry, but I gritted my teeth and tried very hard to hold back my tears. Lin Su lowered his eyes and looked at me for a long time. He opened his mouth and said, "If you want to cry, just cry." I'm not a person who loves to cry. Since I was very young, my parents had both cheated on each other, they didn't love me. They got married just to get me a household registration. Every time I was wronged and wanted to talk, all I got in return were scoldings and rebukes. Come on, why are you so sensitive? Isn't it just being called fat? Who hasn't been scolded? I named you Shinju, hoping you'd be as tough as bamboo. But all you do is cry. It's so annoying. Before, when I saw other children cry, their parents would come to comfort them, but if I cried, my parents would be even more annoyed with me. Tears are just useless liquid in front of people who don't care about you. So later, no matter how uncomfortable I was, I never cried again. But that evening, in the infirmary, Lin Su rubbed my head, leaned over and looked at me, and said, "Your eyes are all red." I closed my eyes and wanted to turn my back, then I heard him sigh, "Shinju, you can show weakness in front of me." Because of those words, my tears burst out instantly. When I cried until it was getting dark and the school doctor was about to get off work, I realized that I didn't bring my wallet. Lin Su paid for me. I wrote down his phone number, added him as a friend when I got home, and transferred the money to him, but he didn't accept it for a long time until it was returned the next day. I sent a question mark. He replied immediately, "What's wrong? Why didn't you accept it? Keep it for now. Let's have a meal after your college entrance examination." I held my phone, and the corners of my mouth turned up unconsciously. Unfortunately, things didn't go as expected. After the college entrance examination, Lin Su seemed to have disappeared from the world. All the messages I sent him sank without a trace. The next time we met was on New Year's Eve, the year I was a sophomore. My parents had already started living apart, and there was only me in the huge house. Firecrackers were going off downstairs. I was huddled in my room, watching the Spring Festival gala alone. When the clock struck 0, my phone suddenly vibrated. "LX, Happy New Year." I was stunned, my heart seemed to skip a beat, and my fingertips typing were trembling. "Lin Su, is that you, or has your account been hacked?" The words typing were displayed at the top of the chat box. I waited for about 5 minutes and finally got his reply. It was very short, only 2 words, "Yes, it's me. Where have you been these 2 years? Why didn't you contact me?" I couldn't say the second half of the sentence, but the person on the other side seemed to sense it in advance and sent me a voice call. I answered, suddenly hearing that familiar yet unfamiliar clear voice. I didn't know what to say for a moment. It was Lin Su who broke the silence first. He asked me to go to the balcony and face the 2 o'clock direction. I didn't understand, but I did as he said. A dozen seconds later, with a bang, a brilliant firework bloomed in the lonely night sky. The petals fell like rain, as if within reach. I kept the phone answering posture and looked up for a long time. A man's deep voice came from the other end. "Sorry, I was on a mission before and my phone was handed in. I missed a lot of your messages." My breath caught. Suddenly I remembered that Lin Su studied in a police academy. "Last year at this time, you wished me a happy new year. This year it's my turn." After hanging up the phone, I saw the replies from my parents. "Happy New Year, Dad." "Got it. Happy New Year, Mom." "Busy." None of them wished me a happy new year. Only Lin Su. Only Lin Su. Only Lin Su, who, after being out of touch for 2 years, set off fireworks for me on New Year's Eve to wish me a happy new year. I said before, I don't like to cry, but the tears just wouldn't listen. The 2 years of my junior and senior years of college were some of the few happy times in my life. After Lin Su was transferred back to this city, we met more often, and our relationship gradually became closer. My roommate asked me, "Is the handsome guy who comes to pick you up downstairs your boyfriend?" I denied it. "No, he's just my brother." After answering, my face felt hot. Would a brother take his sister to a couple's restaurant on a date every week? Would a brother look at his sister when asked if there was a girl he liked present during a game of truth or dare? Would a brother climb over the wall to carry his sister to the hospital in the early hours of the morning when he learned that she had menstrual cramps and stay up all night to rub her stomach? No, but I didn't dare to ask more. Lin Su was like a distant oasis that a traveler in the desert suddenly saw to me. I could only look at it foolishly from afar. I was afraid that if I got closer, the beautiful dream would be shattered. At the end of May, approaching graduation, I was exhausted by my graduation project every day. Lin Su drove me to the beach to relax. On the way, we met several couples who invited us to play kayaking together. It seemed to be a competition activity carried out by a certain company. They were short of people temporarily. "Come on, little sister. Your boyfriend has such a good figure. He must have good physical strength, right? If you win first place, There's a reward, my ears turned red. Ah, he's not, okay, Lin Su interrupted me. I looked at him, I don't know if it was my illusion, the man's lips seemed to curl up. When we got on the kayak, a few seconds before the start of the competition, I belatedly asked, so what's the reward for first place? Lin Su's eyes shifted, and he replied a little unnaturally, a very delicate Swiss Army knife, very delicate, judging by his tone, Lin Su should like it very much, with the belief of wanting to win first place, even though neither Lin Su nor I had much experience. We gradually fought our way to the top 3, but the first place team seemed to be at a king level. In the end, even Lin Su, who had good physical strength, was gritting his teeth and persevering. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the veins bulging on his arm and the cold sweat oozing from his forehead. Actually, I really wanted to tell him that it was okay if we couldn't win. I would give him an even more delicate Swiss Army knife tonight, while thinking. Our kayak was slowly overtaking the first place team. When we passed by, the person on the opposite side suddenly let go and said to Lin Su with a smile, "Brother, you're really going all out. My wife is shy, she definitely won't be willing to kiss in front of so many people. First place is for you." I was stunned. What kiss? Wasn't it a Swiss Army knife? When I turned back and met Lin Su's smiling eyes, I realized that I had been deceived. Sorry, I had ulterior motives. Lin Su took my hand and stood by the beautiful sunset-lit beach, whispering an apology to me. The reward for first place was never a Swiss Army knife, it was 2 plane tickets to the capital and, kiss your loved one. My mind went blank. It would be meaningless for me to pretend to be stupid anymore. Lin Su, actually you don't have to be so desperate, you don't have to be so desperate, I will still be with you. He looked at me quietly and slowly said, Xiaozhu, I wanted to win. I wanted to be with you, and I also wanted to. He pursed his lips and gently held my face. Kiss you, thump thump thump. My heart almost jumped out of my chest. Lin Su tilted his head and kissed my forehead piously. The picture was frozen at this moment. Xiaozhu, I'm holding your hand. Being Lin Su's girlfriend was a very happy thing. He was always gentle and always emotionally stable. No matter how many conflicts there were between us, the first one to give in was definitely him, alas. Little ancestor, I was wrong, please talk to me. When I received this reconciliation text message, I was standing at the entrance of the police station, bringing medicine to Lin Su. Lin Su had a bad stomach and often had stomachaches. When he got off work and came out with his colleagues, when he saw my figure, his eyes lit up, Xiaozhu, but before he could reach me, the corner of his clothes was grabbed by a female colleague, Aksu. My car broke down, can you give me a ride? I stood there, looking at them with interest. Lin Su frowned and pulled his clothes back from her hand, then waved back. Luo, you take her, he lives in the opposite direction from my home. The female colleague bit her lip and asked pitifully, are you afraid that Sister Xiaozhu will misunderstand? I can explain it to her for you. Lin Su raised his eyebrows, and a look of impatience appeared in his eyes. Sorry, I don't have the habit of spending anniversaries with 3 people. I couldn't help but laugh. The female colleague was left embarrassed and soon left. Lin Su opened his arms and walked towards me, hugged me, and spun me around on the spot. My time is precious, I can only use it to accompany my girlfriend. I was ticklish and gently dodged. Didn't you say you had a stomachache? Take the medicine first. He opened the car door, protected my head, and carried me into the passenger seat, smiling and saying, I don't feel the pain when I see you. Lin Su started the car, looked straight ahead. And when the traffic light stopped, he suddenly handed me a bunch of champagne roses. I bought it casually during my lunch break, thought I had to coax you since I made you angry. After handing it to me, he raised his hand and rubbed the tip of his nose, as if he wanted to sneeze but held it back forcefully. I sensed something was wrong. I lifted the collar of his shirt, and sure enough, saw a large patch of red rashes. You idiot, you're allergic to pollen. Are you trying to kill yourself? I urged him to go to the hospital. The young doctor who received us looked at him with a smile. Allergic for love, amazing. I blushed and turned my head away, but heard Lin Su say generously, that's right, she's my whole world. Everything between Lin Su and me was so smooth that it felt unreal. Our innocent first love had no absurd mistress, no misunderstandings, no cheating. And we just walked all the way to the engagement. Lin Su took marriage leave in advance to accompany me to Suzhou. I don't know why, but recently my heart has been vague pain off and on, as if I was about to lose something important. I was very uneasy, when we went to Shiyuan temple to ask for a peace talisman, I knelt in front of the Buddha, kowtowed 3 times, and clasped my hands together, closing my eyes to pray. I hoped that Lin Su would have a safe and smooth life, full of happiness and no worries. As if there was a telepathy, I looked back and happened to meet his eyes. Lin Su stood under the Bodhi tree full of red silk, smiling at me with his eyes bent. At that moment, I thought that if there really was a God, he must be able to hear how much I liked Lin Su. We walked out of the temple hand in hand. A little girl politely stopped us and handed us a group photo. I saw you two looking at each other just now. It was so artistic. So I took a photo and gave it to you. Lin Su thanked her with a smile and put that photo in the pocket closest to his heart. On the second day of the marriage leave, Lin Su received a call and left in a hurry. He hugged me tightly and said, "Shenju, when the mission is completed, I'll marry you." Before I could say anything, the door was closed. The summer evening wind rushed into the room, but I inexplicably shivered. In the next 6 months, Lin Su lost contact again. Soon it was the end of the year again. Just like a few years ago, I huddled in the huge room, watching the Spring Festival gala. My phone rang. I answered it. Fireworks exploded outside the window, and it was also very noisy on the other end. There were the sounds of firecrackers, curses, screams, and even gunshots, all mixed together. After a pause, he softly called my name, Xiaozhu. My tears immediately flowed down. "Where are you? Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere?" He avoided answering, his breathing heavy. "Are the fireworks beautiful this year?" "Yes, but unfortunately not as good as the ones you gave me that year, when I was 20, Lin Su once set off fireworks for me." The wall clock ticked, and the hour hand pointed to 0. He interrupted me. "Xiaozhu, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year," one after another, each sound getting lower. I covered my face and bit my lip tightly, not letting myself make any sound. Tears struggled to flow out of my eyes, dripping onto the dark blanket, forming large water stains. I knew he wanted to say all the blessings for the rest of his life. Bang, gunshots rang out, deafening. Almost instantly, the phone was hung up. Only the fireworks outside the window were reflected on the cold glass, flickering on and off, endlessly. I knelt on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "Lin Su, you lied. You clearly said you would accompany me for a lifetime. You clearly said you would marry me after the mission. You lied. You liar, liar." When I saw Lin Su's body, I could hardly breathe. It was as if someone was choking my throat tightly, like a piercing pain as a needle pierced my skin and oozed blood, painful to the point of numbness. "Wake up, Lin Su, don't sleep, get up." "Okay." No one answered me. I held his cold hand and kept rubbing it. "It should be able to warm up." Luo's eyes were red with tears, choking as he said, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry." The day of the arrest was going smoothly at first, but those damned people actually carried guns with them. Captain Lin was shot and forced into the forest by them. When we arrived, we found that he had killed several drug dealers, but he himself, he couldn't continue. He tremblingly handed Lin Su's hangover to me, the peace talisman pierced by a bullet hole, the photo stained with blood, and on the back of the photo, a line of words was written at some point. "Wish my little bamboo peace and safety, Lin Su." How ridiculous. The person who wished me peace finally didn't get peace. I don't know how I got home, nor how I endured until Lin Su was buried. There was no name on his tombstone. Every day, I just sat on the steps of the martyrs' cemetery, looking at that square tombstone. When I wanted to commit suicide, the system found me. I agreed to help it complete the strategy mission because I wanted to revive Lin Su. But finding a target for the strategy mission was really, really difficult. My mind was full of Lin Su who stood up for me in the classroom when I was 17, Lin Su who saved me from the bullies, carried me into the infirmary when I was 18, Lin Su who set off fireworks for me and wished me a happy new year when I was 20, Lin Su who kissed me by the sea and confessed to me when I was 23, Lin Su who would send me flowers to coax me even though he was allergic when I was 24. Lin Su who smiled at me under the Bodhi tree in Jietai Temple when I was 25, and finally, Lin Su who was lying underground, lifeless, when he was 26. How could I forget him? So when I saw Jiang Yan for the first time, I decided to choose him. Only by looking at this face that was exactly like Lin Su's day and night could I have the motivation to live. It was very despicable, right? But at that time, I was really on the verge of collapse. I would go crazy if I couldn't see that face. So all your previous actions of being a love-struck fool weren't for Jiang Yan, the system, which had been dormant for a long time, suddenly spoke again. But for Lin Su, I nodded. At the same time, Jiang Yan, who had learned the truth, started to go crazy in my apartment. All the photos of me and Lin Su were torn off one by him and thrown into the trash can. His eyes were red, and he pressed the lighter. Coldly watching the dancing flames lick the photos inch by inch, I was extremely angry and rushed over to stop him. But as soon as my fingers touched his body, they passed through suddenly. It's no use, host, you're already dead. Yes, I was just a soul and couldn't reach the physical object at all. In despair, the system gave me an idea. I can self-destruct, to exchange for one last chance for you to complete the strategy mission. I was stunned, my lips trembling as I asked, why? It was silent for a moment and then replied, because your lover is a hero shouldn't end up as dry bones in the loss, he should be alive and enjoy a happy and fulfilling life. Almost instantly, my eyes filled with tears, my consciousness was gradually stripped away, and that white light appeared in front of my eyes again. The system's voice was getting farther and farther away. In the end, there was only a murmur, host, this time, it's really the last time, I wish you all the best, bring Lin Su back safely. When I opened my eyes again, the world had restarted. The familiar apartment environment gave me a bit of a sense of reality. I propped myself up and saw that all the photos on the wall were still intact. So I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. My fingertips gently caressed Lin Su's face. He smiled so gently at me. Suddenly, there was a violent impact sound at the entrance. The door opened. It was Jiang Yan. He should have run here, right? His hair was messy. The moment he saw me, he grabbed my wrist and asked, who is he? Shinju, are you using me as a substitute? I smiled, unable to control myself. My fingertips brushed across the tear mole at the corner of his eye. Jiang Yan and Lin Su looked so alike. Even the position of this tear mole was exactly the same. After not getting an answer from me for a long time, the strength in Jiang Yan's hand gradually increased, and his eyes gradually turned red. You know what? At first, I really hated you. I hated your scheming approach, your false concern. Do you, as strategists, even consider me a person, weave a beautiful dream for me, deceive me into falling in love with you, and then throw me away like trash, finally tell me that it was all fake? He shook my shoulders vigorously. I couldn't stand it, and my back was pressed against the wall. I thought you were different from them, because no matter how much I humiliated you, how much I made things difficult for you, the way you looked at me always had deep love in it. So that last time, I was really about to fall in love with you. His hands were propped on both sides of me, his right hand clenched into a fist and slammed hard against the wall. His voice was so trembling. I thought you were dead. I rushed into your house like crazy, but then I saw, he grabbed my wrist, pushed open the bedroom door, and pointed at the photos all over the wall, laughing wildly, his eyes getting redder and redder. Is it fun, Shinju? Tell me. Is it fun to play with other people's true feelings? I really hate you, because you're more despicable than them. I was pushed to the ground, the cold tile scratched my palm, blood dripped down, staining the ground red. It hurt so much. But I had already cried so much that I couldn't cry anymore. Speak, who are you looking at through my face? I slowly propped myself up, looked up into his eyes, and replied word by word, my lover. He suddenly fell silent. His face was so pale that it was almost colorless, and his eyelashes were trembling uncontrollably. Fine, you really have something. He slowly turned his back, raised his hand to wipe his eyes. When he turned to me again, he was full of hostility. He pinched my neck. Since that's the case, I'll kill you and let you go down to accompany him. How about that? I closed my eyes and didn't struggle, letting him tighten his hand vigorously. Cough, cough. Actually, I should have died a long time ago. I should have died in that car accident. It was the system. The system sacrificed itself to let me be reborn. Jiang Yan didn't say anything, just gritted his teeth and looked at me. His eyes were so terrifying that he seemed to want to tear me apart. I thought I might have let the system down. Jiang Yan really hated me. My chest was very stuffy, my throat was hoarse, and I gradually couldn't make a sound. I was so breathless that I was about to suffocate. Suddenly, that hand let go of me. Jiang Yan clamped my chin. When he spoke, his voice was extremely cold. I suddenly changed my mind. It's really boring to let you die so easily. It's better to keep you by my side and let you witness your own death. I was imprisoned in Jiang Yan's private villa. He was a completely different person from Lin Su. I could always tell who was who clearly. If Lin Su was the moon hanging high in the sky, then Jiang Yan was a wild and unruly lone wolf. He locked me in the room, except for bringing 3 meals a day. The door was always tightly closed. At first, I refused to eat no matter what. Jiang Yan squatted in front of me, his fingertips pinching a photo of me and Lin Su. He took out a lighter from his pocket and pressed the switch. The flames leaped across the edge of the photo. Every time you go on a hunger strike from now on, I'll burn a photo, until all the photos are burned. I struggled to rush over, but my wrist was firmly grasped. Jiang Yan did what he said. I watched helplessly as several photos turned to ashes. Those were my only memories. I didn't dare to go against Jiang Yan anymore. I don't know if it was my illusion, but after I ate on time, he visibly relaxed. Occasionally, he would also be merciful and take me out, but every time on such occasions, there were other women around Jiang Yan. If you looked carefully, you would find that they all looked a bit like me, just like he was taking revenge on me for using him as a substitute. I could only pretend not to see. Time passed day by day, counting the days. Xing Yaoyao would return to the country today. The choosing between 2 people was about to start again. But this time, I was really tired. I lay on the cold floor, staring at the ceiling in a daze. I was thinking that if Jiang Yan still chose Xing Yaoyao, then after I died, could I see Lin Su? Could we still be together? Then let me die. When this thought came to my mind, I was surprisingly calm. The only thing I felt guilty about was the system. It sacrificed itself, but I was so useless. There was the sound of a car engine downstairs. Along with it came the girl's soft coquettish voice and the man's doting response. A thunderbolt split the sky outside the window, and a thick tree crown was split in half. The door of the room was pushed open. Xing Yaoyao walked over and kicked me on the ground with her toes, sneering at me. I looked at the window with empty eyes, until the lightning struck the villa. All the lights in the room went out, and thick, choking smoke kept pouring in. The roof beam suddenly fell, trapping me and Xing Yaoyao in the corner. I thought I finally knew how I was going to die this time. The fire was raging. In a trance, I seemed to see Jiang Yan rushing into the room. His clothes were messy, and he was in a panic. After looking at me, he didn't stop and went straight to the dying Xing Yaoyao. For the last time, he still chose her. I closed my eyes in despair. It seemed that someone turned around and rushed towards me. A pair of hands steadily supported my waist. Shenzhu, why do you have to be a strategist? Why do you have a lover who died on duty? These days of torturing you, I feel like I'm going crazy too. Jiang Yan patted my face. I really wanted to open my eyes, but my eyelids were so heavy. Your lover's name is Lin Su. Right, to be honest, I'm so jealous of him. Just now I was thinking, if it were him, he would definitely rush towards you the first time, right? The man's fingers stroked my neck and touched my face. After a while, he sighed softly. You're safe now. I should go back and save Yaoyao. The fire is quite big. Do you think if I don't come out, it would be okay? He let out a low laugh and answered his own question. That would be fine too, by the way. Will you miss me like you miss him? Alas, it doesn't matter. I seemed to smell the smell of the wind, the smell of freedom. There was a warm touch on my lips. It was as light as a dragonfly skimming the water. At the very end, he said, be happy, Xiaozhu. I slowly opened my eyes and looked at the villa not far away. The raging fire was devouring it. Ding, a mechanical electronic sound rang in my ear. Congratulations, host, the strategy mission is successful. The mission reward is being exchanged. When I saw Lin Su standing in front of me alive, I pinched my thigh hard. He took my wrist, turned his head, and looked at me with a smile. Xiaozhu, I'm back. I stood there stupidly, my legs weak, not even daring to blink. I was really scared that the Lin Su in front of me was an illusion. He looked at me quietly, with a gentle pull. He hugged me into his arms. My eyes were hot and wet, and I hugged him back tightly. I cried and babbled to him about everything that had happened during this period, about how the system found me when I committed suicide after his death, about the 3 failed strategy missions and the sacrifice of the system, about my entanglement with Jiang Yan. He listened very carefully, extremely carefully. After I finished, I looked up at him with red eyes. He gently rubbed my head. Xiaozhu, you really worked hard for me. That night, Lin Su bought 2 plane tickets to Suzhou. He said he owed me a complete trip and wanted to make it up to me. This bastard tossed me around all night. The next morning at 5 o'clock, he even dragged me to climb the mountain to watch the sunrise. I was so sleepy that I could hardly keep my eyes open. I saw a strip of fish, belly white, emerging along the horizon, a red sun hanging in the blue sky, and the sunlight dyed the clouds rose-colored. I leaned on Lin Su, staring at the tear mole at the corner of his eye. He noticed my gaze and raised his eyebrows at me. He asked me, "What's wrong?" I said, "People who watch the sunrise together will be together for a long, long time. It's a very silly thing to say, right?" He also laughed and pinched the tip of my nose. "Silly girl, I'll always be by your side." We walked down the mountain through the thin mist. When we reached Pingjiang, it started to drizzle. The boatman paddled his oar and shouted at me, "It's raining. Do you want to take a whooping boat?" I looked back at Lin Su. He was taking off his windbreaker, wanting to shield me from the rain. I shook my head at the boatman, took Lin Su's hand, and said, "Let's just walk." The rain was fine and gentle, like a veil, falling on our hair and shoulders. As we strolled along the ancient streets, the sound of raindrops on the eaves was like a soft melody. Lin Su's hand was warm, and I held it tightly, afraid that if I let go, this beautiful dream would shatter. We passed by a small tea house. The aroma of tea wafted out, mixed with the smell of rain. Lin Su pulled me in, and we sat by the window, watching the rain-washed world outside. The waiter brought 2 cups of biluakun, the green tea leaves unfurled in the hot water, giving off a fresh fragrance. Lin Su took a sip and then looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness. "Xiaozhu, this trip, I want to make up for all the time we lost." I nodded, my eyes a little misty again. "Lin Su, I'm so afraid that this is all a dream. I'm afraid that when I wake up, you'll be gone again." He reached out and wiped the teardrop from the corner of my eye, his voice soft but firm. "It's not a dream, I'm right here, I'll never leave you again." After leaving the tea house, we continued to wander. We stopped in front of a small handicraft shop. There were all kinds of delicate handicrafts in the shop, and my eyes were immediately attracted by a pair of bamboo-shaped pendants. Lin Su noticed my interest and went in to buy them. He put one around my neck and put the other in his pocket. "Now, we're connected, no matter where we are." As the day gradually turned into evening, the lights in the ancient town were lit one by one. The warm yellow light reflected on the water, creating a dreamy scene. We found a small restaurant by the river and ordered some local specialties. While eating, Lin Su suddenly took out a small box from his pocket. My heart skipped a beat. He opened the box, and inside was a simple but elegant ring. "Xiaozhu, I know I proposed to you before, but this time, I want to do it again. Will you marry me? Let me take care of you for the rest of our lives." Tears welled up in my eyes again, and I nodded vigorously. "Yes, I will." He gently put the ring on my finger, then leaned over and kissed me. At that moment, the world around us seemed to fade away, and there were only the two of us, in this small corner of the ancient town, surrounded by love. The days that followed were like a beautiful poem. Lin Su and I traveled to many places, making up for all the missed moments. Everywhere we went, we left behind our laughter and sweet memories. One day, while we were lying on the beach, watching the sunset, I suddenly thought of Jiang Yan. I knew that I owed him an apology, but I also knew that I could never repay him for what he had done. Lin Su seemed to sense my thoughts. He took my hand and said, "Xiaozhu, everyone has their own destiny. Jiang Yan, he made his own choices, and you've finally found your happiness." I turned to look at him, and in his eyes, I saw my own reflection, as well as a future full of hope. With Lin Su by my side, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we could face them together, because our love was like a lighthouse in the vast ocean, guiding us through the darkest nights and towards a bright future. Story 2. After returning to the Zhou family from the orphanage, Zhou Yuanma refused our arranged marriage because he was concerned about his childhood friend. When she came to me, I tried to reassure her, "The marriage is just for business, it will be in name only, and within 3 years, he will be free again." But she didn't believe me and chose to be with someone else. In the end, she became a mere plaything and died from abuse. Later, Zhou Yuanma took over the Zhou family business. He began to pull his investments from our company, pressuring me to desperate measures to secure funds. Unwilling to endure humiliation, I jumped from the balcony. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day she came to me. After 3 years of marriage, I never thought that the person Zhou Yuanma hated the most would be me. Just last night, under the glow of the crystal lamp and by the light of our glasses, we shared a smile. I toasted to his hard-earned success in taking over the Zhou group, and to the unspoken understanding and support we had for each other over the years. I had finally acknowledged in my heart that he was the right person for me. I thought our future would be together, growing old side by side, but the very next morning, The whole city's media was reporting that the Zhou family had withdrawn their investments from the Chow family. The model couple that we were known as for 3 years was heading for a split. Early in the morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Company shareholders, media journalists, friends, and relatives were all asking me, what happened? The stock market plummeted as soon as it opened. From disbelief at first, I finally had to accept that it was Zhou Yuanma. He was targeting the Chow family. He was targeting me, but why? I couldn't understand. It wasn't until the evening that Zhou Yuanma barely responded with a message. It was a room number and a location. I rushed there, wanting to confront him, only to find not just him but other men in the room. As the door closed, I saw on a small table by the bed a row of unspeakable tools. Zhou Yuanma had a cigarette in his mouth. His expression was cool and his smile chilling. His next words were colder than his smile. Since we're married, I've arranged for you to meet a few executives. Take good care of them, and money won't be an issue. For a moment, I thought I had misheard. Then, I felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over me. I trembled all over. Zhou Yuanma, have you lost your mind? His gaze shifted slightly but remained unfathomable and extremely dangerous. Realizing something was wrong, I tried to leave but was surrounded by walls of people. Their faces flushed, their smiles wicked. Their vulgar words forced me to keep stepping back until my back was against a cold, hard railing. There was no escape. Why? My eyes welled up, and I nearly bit through my lip. Zhou Yuanma dismissed my predicament with a stern face and a cold snort. He said, Chiao Shuyang, Miss Chiao, what makes you think you're more noble than Yining? What she has been through, why can't you? Yining, Chi Yining. My head exploded with a bang. A strong, complex, and utterly ridiculous emotion filled my chest. I even laughed out loud. So, was he avenging his childhood friend? He actually blamed me for Chi Yining's death. Zhou Yuanma, are you stupid? That was her own choice. I tried to convince him, but he ruthlessly cut me off. Enough. A storm was brewing in his dark eyes. My dignity wouldn't allow me to beg him, especially since I wasn't in the wrong. Is there nothing to discuss? Zhou Yuanma arrogantly raised an eyebrow, his tone scornful. Do you think you're in a position to negotiate with me now? He was intelligent and resourceful. This was not just revenge for one night. It wouldn't end so easily, and for this night, I didn't want to comply with his wishes. Mimicking his disdainful posture, I smirked. You really are a fool. Then, amidst his astonished gaze, I forcefully leapt over the railing and tightly shut my eyes. I jumped. Miss Chiao, are you listening to me? The intense whistling sound by my ear suddenly ceased, replaced by a gentle female voice, who was speaking. My confused gaze shifted from the water in my cup to the person sitting across from me. She had a delicate and pretty face, the kind people describe as a first love face online. No wonder Zhou Yuanma kept her in his heart. Unforgettable. If it weren't for seeing Chi Yining again, I would have forgotten her later pretense of climbing the social ladder and her arrogant demeanor toward me. Miss Chiao, pretending to rub my temple, I tiredly said, sorry, I was busy late last night. Miss Chiao has worked hard. Chi Yining bit her red lips, her eyes brimming with tears. After a quiet moment, she spoke again. Mo and I shared hardships in the orphanage, growing up together. He's the person I rely on the most. I'm not as good as Miss Chiao in every way. He's all I have. So, Miss Chiao, could you please not marry him? I was once moved by their bond when I heard the same plea before, but born and raised in a wealthy family, to me, the least significant thing was this romantic love. My marriage would inevitably be based on maximizing benefits, so I could only placate her subtly. The marriage of business is nominal. He'll be free in less than 3 years. I never thought that Zhou Yuanma would choose the Zhou family over Chi Yining only temporarily, because he wanted power and profit, nor did I expect Chi Yining to distrust me, later frequently sparking rumors with prominent family heirs. She thought she was being welcomed by a prestigious family, but little did she know, she was merely being used as a plaything by others, falling into an abyss, and ultimately suffering a tragic death. I never expected that Zhou Yuanma had spent years lying low, harboring such hatred towards me. Perhaps it was divine intervention, but I was reborn. I didn't feel any pain at all. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself sitting here, digging my nails into my palm. I felt the real pain of flesh. Only then did I come back to my senses. Meeting Chi Yining's eager gaze, I slightly curved the corners of my lips. Okay. Chi Yining was astonished, seemingly in disbelief that I had agreed so straightforwardly. After her initial surprise, she thanked me repeatedly with tears in her eyes. Then, with trembling hands, she took out her phone to call Zhou Yu and Ma. I'm sorry. I didn't consult you before asking Miss Chiao out privately. But she just agreed not to engage in a marriage alliance with you. After she spoke, she quietly watched me, waiting for my response, and I, as if I didn't understand her hint, looked back innocently, until Zhou Yu and Ma's voice came through. Really, it's true, Qi Yining affirmed loudly. After speaking, she looked at me again. It's true, isn't it, Miss Chiao? Hearing Zhou Yu and Ma's voice for the first time in a while left my mind blank for a moment. This voice was about 80 to 90% similar to the past, yet I could discern a slight difference. Zhou Yu and Ma, he wasn't the one who was reborn, but then again, he wasn't the one who died. Miss Chiao, Qi Yining called me once more, and I then pretended to snap back to reality. The other end of the phone was still quiet, seemingly waiting for my response. With a slight smile, I said nonchalantly, it's true. I wish you both the best in advance. In this life, I will let you have your way. Let's see how far you can go, but my heart will always belong to me alone, even if it once beat for Zhou Yu and Ma. That was only during those fleeting moments of warmth. It doesn't belong to the Zhou Yu and Ma of now, nor to the Zhou Yu and Ma of later. Qi Yining nodded at me, having achieved her goal. Then, while excitedly talking on the phone, she walked away. After she left, I sat in the cafe for a long time. Only when the water in my cup had completely cooled did I seem to sort out my past and present lives. When I stood up, my legs were somewhat numb, but just then, Zhou Yu and Ma's call came through. I stared blankly at the flashing number on the screen, took a deep breath, and answered. The next second, the man's clear voice came through. Zhou Yu and Ma asked me, did you really agree with Yining to not enter into a marriage alliance? I paused, a cold laugh rising in my heart. What do you mean by that? Was he worried that I would go back on my word, and was confirming it again? Zhou Yu and Ma was silent for a moment, then softened his tone. I didn't mean anything else, just that you were right before. The alliance is good for both families. Oh, I interrupted him, but it's not good for your childhood sweetheart. Are you willing to let her suffer? Zhou Yu and Ma fell silent again. It had to be said. Qi Yining holds a very high place in his heart. However, the memory of those greasy, disgusting eyes in the hotel room and the feeling of desperation when being coerced brings a surge of hatred within me. I clenched my fists tightly, struggling to control my emotions, and kept my voice steady. I will leave it to you to clearly explain to the family elders about rejecting the arranged marriage. This time, I will also make my stance clear to them. Hearing this, Zhou Yu and Ma seemed to be provoked. He said coldly, fine. Then at next week's banquet, Yining will be my date. With that, the call was abruptly disconnected. He hung up the phone. Such an impulse of him could never be the deeply contemplative Zhou Yu and Ma that he would later become. If only I didn't know how much he would come to hate me later on. At this moment, I almost thought he was just angry with me, but then again, our relationship during this period was actually quite harmonious. After all, it had been half a year since he returned to the Zhou family. Over these months, the elders had overtly and covertly found reasons for us to interact, and I had come to understand him somewhat. Occasionally, his insights at work impressed me. Zhou Yu and Ma is intelligent and learns quickly. Despite growing up in an orphanage, he excelled academically and was highly capable. This is also why I was willing to enter into an arranged marriage with him. Before the start of the banquet, by coincidence, I ran into them at the entrance. Qi Yining, who had dressed up meticulously, looked even more charming. She greeted me from a distance while holding on to Zhou Yu and Ma's arm. Sister Chiao. Her girlish voice attracted many glances. Zhou Yu and Ma's grip tightened when he saw me, but he firmly allowed Qi Yining to cling to him. His expression was a bit stiff, but before he could speak, I lightly breezed past them, leaving a remark. Miss Qi, I'm not very good at taking care of people. Perhaps you should call me Manager Xiao Chiao. Laughter echoed softly behind me. But before I had taken 2 steps, Zhou Yu and Ma grabbed my wrist. He frowned at me. Why are you acting so strange? Yining was just greeting you. This sudden defense startled me for a moment, and the warmth on my wrist snapped me back to reality. His grip was tight, and I couldn't break free for a moment. Zhou Yu and Ma. I cooled my expression, and just in time, Qi Yining gently persuaded from the side. Amo, please let go of Miss Chiao. He seemed to take her words as gospel. So I stepped back to increase the distance between us. I was just speaking plainly, which word was strange. Also, we haven't known each other long, so don't act like you know me well. At this, Zhou Yuanma's face darkened completely, his lips pressed tightly together, and there seemed to be a hint of hurt in his eyes. I must be seeing things. What does he have to be hurt about? Not wanting to stay and become a topic of conversation, I headed into the hall first, as expected. The Zhou family's expression turned grim the moment they saw Qi Yining. I walked up to my father, who seemed ready to jump to his daughter's defense. Dad, why worry about someone else's son? After regaining his composure, he glared with wide eyes, fuming and grumbling. That Zhou kid is slapping our faces. He's gotten too bold. Previously, it was only my mother who could make my father this angry. Since she passed away, it was rare for him to be so emotionally volatile. Thinking back to his son-in-law who disappointed him greatly in his previous life, I couldn't even dare to imagine how my father would react. Don't worry, Dad, I'll make you proud, I gently reassured him, insisting that he shouldn't confront the Zhou family at this time. That would only provoke Zhou Yuanma's displeasure. He is the long-lost biological son the Zhou parents had been searching for years, and now he is the apple of their eye. Of course, the Zhou family wouldn't bear to blame their own child. They would only think that all this trouble was stirred up by Qi Yining. Someone curiously asked, "Who is Qi Yining, Mr.?" Zhou laughed heartily. "She's a childhood friend of my son, who came over to hang out tonight." With that said, Mr. Zhou promptly took Zhou Yuanma to offer toasts, as if afraid of being questioned further. Meanwhile, Qi Yining was left by Mrs. Zhou's side. In front of her son, Mrs. Zhou couldn't say much. But as soon as Zhou Yuanma turned his back, Mrs. Zhou grasped my hand without sparing Qi Yining a glance. It was a scene similar to one from my past life, only now, Qi Yining was also here behind me, greeting a few ladies jovially. Their ambiguous glances fell on me, teasing Mrs. Zhou. "It looks like not only did you find your son, but you might soon have a new daughter-in-law as well." Hearing this, Mrs. Zhou's eyes and eyebrows lit up with a smile. I calmly withdrew my hand, letting the elders chat amongst themselves. I had decided to let Zhou Yuanma be the center of attention. I was in no rush, but some people just couldn't wait. Auntie, Yuanma said he won't marry Miss Qiao, so how could I underestimate Qi Yining? She not only withstood countless ambiguous glances but also dared to disturb the ladies' enjoyment publicly. Mrs. Zhou's face stiffened, wanting to ignore her. But Qi Yining spoke up again. Miss Qiao also promised that she wouldn't marry Yuanma, right? Miss Qiao, the same tactic, if used repeatedly, might not work as well. I bit my lip, showing a bitter smile, instantly gaining several sympathetic glances. Mrs. Zhou patted my hand reassuringly, her voice commanding respect. "Promised who? Did you promise her?" Qi Yining's face turned deathly pale. As the surrounding ladies saw this, the topic shifted towards Qi Yining. Quickly, they pieced together the gossip. Some who loved stirring things up even advised Mrs. Zhou directly, "I think this girl looks quite nice, and since she and Yuanma grew up together and know each other well, it's not inappropriate." Yes, young people value feelings nowadays, and a forced marriage isn't sweet. We elders shouldn't interfere too much. Me, luckily, I harbored no feelings for Zhou Yuanma. Otherwise, I'd be collateral damage. Mrs. Zhou's smile was particularly strained, yet she still had to maintain decorum, nodding along occasionally. "What are you all talking about so lively, Mr. Zhou?" arrived with Zhou Yuanma after making a round of toasts. Seeing Zhou Yuanma, Qi Yining clung to him as if he were her pillar of strength. The onlookers noticed this, and it was all in jest, really. According to the original plan, after today's banquet, Zhou Yuanma and I were supposed to get engaged and then married. That's the conventional sequence in our circle. But tonight, Qi Yining's presence added a fresh twist to what would have been just another ordinary gathering. Hearing everyone praise Zhou Yuanma and Qi Yining as childhood sweethearts and a perfect match, Zhou's father's face darkened. Of course, my father wasn't looking too pleased either. Finally, as the banquet came to an end and the guests dispersed, my father could no longer hold back and confronted Zhou Yuanma. "Do you really not want to get engaged to Yang Yang?" Zhou Yuanma was unusually silent. I thought he would readily admit it. Where was the man who had been dead set against this arranged marriage? What happened? Did he taste the sweetness of collaborating with the Qiao family? He